lot of you'll find all this like very folk stuff, clearly very fairy stuff, but in their repertoire is always going to be the standard, like the satar. Are you familiar with the satar tablet? SAT, or I think I showed them that last week. Oh, it's the Cunning Man's workbook. Big, thick. It might be over here. Or yeah, it's huge. Cephalin's getting it for me. I want to show you something else. The Sator tablet, which is this. Does that look familiar?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
This is a whole tradition in and of itself. I kid you not. The Sator tablet is used, it's most known for putting out fire. That you can write it down on a piece of paper and throw it into a fire and it'll put it out. Now, but it did other things. Like two of the stories I ran into, one in Scotland, one in Ireland, where a woman or a man had been enchanted by a fairy lover. And the fairy lover was actually not someone that they had known. There was like a dark stranger that shows up in the middle of the night, and I think, well, the male showing up with the female was this dark, mysterious stranger, and she's finding herself enamored, hanging on every word. And then when it's time for him to leave, she can't bear the thought of him leaving. He's cast a spell on her. He's glamorized it. And so she goes chasing after him. And then, but the father and the sister, and all this, so they're chasing her through the woods, all this, trying to catch her. He's trying to catch him, who doesn't want to lose her fairy lay. And they spy something fall out of his pocket. No, her pocket. It was out of her pocket. And the thing that, as she was running, and so they catch up to her because she couldn't catch up to the fairy. And when they caught up to her, the thing that had fallen out of her pocket was a piece of paper with this written on it. And the piece of paper had fairy blood all around it. And what they found out then with this lore, and this is what they were saying in this old story, was that the fair ones used this charm as well. But instead of putting out a fire, they would use it to increase one in a person. So what he did is he snuck this onto her so that she couldn't bear to be without him, so that the fire of love would burn and burn inside of her. So when this fell out, the father saw it, and I think maybe he somehow knew some magic, and he just took it immediately and burnt it. And then the ferryman just suddenly showed up screaming and yelling, and then he was just gone, angry and gone, and the spell was broken. So I want to tell you about that. The Sator tablet seems to show up a whole bunch of places in both the Cunning Man. Oh, let's go show you this too. The Cunning Man and the Hedge Witch and the Fairy Magic Worker. And there's a couple of other old little tablets like that I'll bring up. And then this is kind of expensive, but it is really worth having. Wait a minute, I want to get the music right. Da 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 da. Oh, wait a minute. Da da. The Cunning Man's Workbook.
Handbook.
Handbook. Okay, so I got that wrong. Oops. Yes, and this is the thick one. This is by my Alexandrian elder, Jim Baker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jim Baker is the historian for the Plymouth Plantation in Plymouth Rock. And he is world renowned for that because his historical accuracy is like to the nine. This, if you want a book that's got what kinds of magic they were doing during the sort of heyday of Faery Seership, well, Fairy, how do I say this, get this right? The heyday of cunning men and cunning women that were also doing the fairy stuff. This book has got a ton of it. And it's got a fair amount of fairy stuff in it too. Interestingly, the cunning people, and I can get you more on the publisher and all if you like, the cunning people never got caught up in the Inquisition at all. I think there was very few that they ever, because usually the one like the fairy seer or the fairy healer, the communities wouldn't let them be found. One, But they also because they hid their stuff under Christian stuff. I mean, they hid it fast. So my suspicion is a lot of these cunning people were actually they were witches. I mean, witches, and they just covered their stuff up with Christianity. They figured out a way. Well, they figured out a way to keep the what they call the lapidaries from being destroyed. Did I tell you all about the lapidaries? No. A lapidary to right. Ask me.
Did I? Did I?
Lapa fairies?
Napa Fairy?
Lapa fairies?
Lapa fairy. Yes, the lap.
Oh, or are you milking the stones? The lapidary?
Well, yes. Well, you got Lapa fairies in the. Oh, wait a minute. I just got that. I just got the dairy part. Oh my God, that was funny. That was really good. You got me on that one. So here's the scoop. Lapidaries today are like places that sell stones that usually are faceted, right? That's a lapidary or lapidarium. That's not what they were in the ancient world. The ancient world, they were the name of a treatise, like a monograph, right? A small book, basically. That was always about the pharmacological uses of stones. And the Romans, the Egyptians, they had tablets. They had some tablets, but they weren't real big on the using for medical stuff. Sorry, I'm pouring some tea. And but the Romans were, and so were the Greeks. Now, the thing is about hey Anna,
Hi.
thing is
Sorry,
about
I just finished work a little while ago and wanted to take a shower.
these lapidaries preserved major lore. For those of you from Strega tradition, Pantera, um, all the lore that has what stones with what engraved images of what gods and what like Latin phrases and Etruscan deeds all comes from these lapidaries. And so these lapidaries became so reputable for their power, their recipes for magic that the church ordered them to be burnt, to be destroyed. And most of them were. The guess who's tracked down the ones that weren't? There are a few of them that were not, right? So along the way, I'll be getting y'all copies of those. Okay. In these, it's going to blow you away. In these is literally all the things with what stones with what carvings. Okay. What spirits are in what stones, what their names are, what medicines you can make from those stones, in what combinations with what metals, on what, astrological this is and that's.
And we're getting these when?
I'll, I'll get right on it. I'll get right on it. Isn't this exciting? So I bring this up because I was talking to my friend Bev, who lives in Ireland, and I'm just so excited to be back in contact with. You're going to hear about Bev a lot because we're talking a lot. He's the one who his babysitter was Gerald Gardner and Gerald's wife. That's who babysitted him. And then he was their like groundskeeper for a long time, very close to the Gardners. And he's a Manx cunning man. He's fantastic. And he's the one who also told me, he said, Orion, in the Manx tradition, which is on the Isle of Man, right? The fairy healers, they had another name. I don't remember what it was called. I could get that for you, but it's a Manx name. And they had these, the ones that were literate, he said, they had these strange books that were banned. He said, I know they were burnt in England. They were gotten rid of, many as they could. I said, well, what were they about? He said, they were about stones and what stones can do. Because especially in the Manx and in the Scottish tradition, there was a big focus in the fairy tradition of these, in Scottish tradition, they would focus on Phrygians, Frideans. Phrygians or Frids, they would call them, are spirits in stones. These spirits that take refuge in stones. And in fact, that became a very common practice to have stones that's all they did was to, they housed spirits. So they would meet spirits and they would invite these spirits in to live in the stones. Some would live in them and just be with them and carry with them. some would live in those stones when they were doing work. Like they might go down to the sacred well on their land or over to the old elden tree, and ask the fairy being that they've contacted, been working with, and maybe that one, generations have been working with in the family, to maybe step into the stone so they could then take the stone and go heal Bessie May down the road of her, I don't know, whatever she had. So so I'm finding out that these books have some precedence with fairy seers. Now that would have been with the ones that are literate, right? Which means basically the ones who had some money, who had money. Okay. So I'll show you that book. And okay. Now to get started. Were any of y'all in the class last night? I don't think y'all were in there. You were in there. Kanu was there. That went really nice, didn't it? Yeah, there was some good, really good energy flowing. Really good energy flowing.
Unmute yourself.
You're muted, Connor.
Sorry,
Unmute.
I was nodding to communicate and forgot I was unmuted too. But yeah, no, I think that was Saturday, right? The
Was that?
ancestral healers.
Yeah, Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that went really well. I've already gotten some emails from folks who were actually commenting on the depth of fairy tradition. They said they had no idea. I said, "Oh,
They have no idea what else there is.
I know." Oh. I said, "You're still wallowing in the what is it, in the shallow waters." I said, "There's still deeper and deeper waters." So the first thing I think on our list was the fairy healing chamber. Okay, now fairy healing chamber is very, very old. I learned it in both from elders in Appalachia. They didn't call it a chamber though; they called it a cave, fairy cave, or not the cave. What was it? The cave of the others, or the healing cave. And so, and when you went to these places, at least in Appalachian folk magic, they call that a rapture. The trance itself is called a rapture, and then the journeying sometimes is called flying. Uh, Flying, they'd even do something where they singing into the rapture, where they sing into the rapture, or they quake into the rapture. That's the other thing. Quaking. Anytime you hear that term with me, quaking is usually always rocking. Well, it's either the hands trembling, that's called quaking, or this gentle rocking motion. Every now and again, this, but very much slower. Um, and then would go into their raptures, and then that's how they would go to the healing cave. Okay. Now they didn't use the F word, by the way. They didn't use fairy at all, because the folks that I grew up with were not as much English as there was some Germanic and a lot of Scottish. And fairy was a more of a British word, even though it's probably a Breton word. Um, but the Brits were the ones who really used it. And they weren't thought of with a lot of love up in the mountains. So they would talk about them cousins, or the healer, the healer. And the other thing they call the wise woman is the witch, just the witch, not a witch, the witch. They were clear that she was like an angel, definitely an angel, because the fairies were sometimes called angels too. And you will find that. You will also find that sometimes they'll call them, this is an odd name, the planets. The planets, like a planet. They'd say, them planets make this power. And them planets, I'm sure what that comes from is the concept of a stellar impact on this planet, or some kind of stellar nature on this planet. They would even refer to angels as the planets sometimes. So this chamber it's Bronze Age. It's very old. A part of why it works so intensely is it's got the momentum of the past. It's one of the well-worn paths. Hi, Marla. So it's one of the well-worn paths in Faery. Now, a little hint for you about something really magical. Always remember with magic, period. If you have pieces, like let's say, if you have a few old, intact, unbroken things, that's all you need to tap the ancient current. If you have just a few things, let alone having a bunch, those things will open up like fractals. Because as you open up, let's say the charm I gave you a long time ago, this is the spell that I intone flesh to flesh and bone to bone. We keep finding.
Brian, you're talking about techniques,
Yes.
fractions of old techniques
Yes, and that's leading into the whole.
versus actual physical items.
Right. Technique
Okay.
versus items. Yeah, because I'm going to spend some time on that fairy healing chamber to talk
Okay.
about the two ways it's used.
Right.
Where was I going with that? Yeah, these old things will open up like a gift box or something, and there's more inside. Like for instance, if you work with the fairy healing chamber, you start to actually learn the mysteries of the seven principal powers of the ancient world, which is the seven portals of primary magic that come through the gates of the day. You know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all that being aligned to planets. Okay, so I'm going to keep that in mind. So these things packed away inside of them will be whole layers of stuff. Okay, so everything about the fairy healing chamber has then further things packed inside of it. See, people ask a lot of times, how was it that these old witches? Some ask how this old witch remembers so many things. You know, in terms of all the charms, all of this, all of that. Well, ask yourself this. You know the magic circle, right? East, south, west, north, earth, air, fire, water, all that stuff. Well, I bet you could name 20 attributes under each heading for the quarters if we sat here easily. You know, times of the day, tools, temperaments, zodiacal signs, you know, on and on and on. And that's because it's a mnemonic device. And a mnemonic device is a simple construct that can compartmentalize massive amounts of information in it. And because you know the attributes of the circle, and then you learn the core quality of the attributes of the four quarters, right? Then it's very easy to remember all the other things that fall in line with that attribute. So that's an example of how these old things can unpack. Like you teach that circle, and then once they get the understanding of the core potency or core energy of each one of those elements, then it becomes a piece of cake to remember, oh, this goes there, oh, this goes there, this goes there. Massive amounts, okay. Well, the fairy healing chamber is one of those classic ones too. It is packed full of stuff. So, because remember that when they teach these things, they were teaching illiterate persons, usually were teaching illiterate people, right? Mm-hmm. Usually the folks, most of them couldn't read, didn't, you know, there was very few that could, but when they did, they were usually they were wealthy, you know. So, and the truth is the wealthier ones didn't know as much. They didn't know as much because they didn't need as much. And need has a way of driving the guts of magic, the way need and poverty drives the gut of, say, country music or jazz or blues. You know, that when something's pressed against the bone, you know, and is needed more, you tend to dig deeper. So So now let's go with this. Another example of this, by the way, in terms of something that unpacks itself further and further, is Sarah and the cottage.
Mm.
Yep, that's so. They would never have called these visualizations, by the way, and I don't call them that. They would have called these or processes either. Those are highfalutin words. They would have called this more like a vision, or they would just said traveling, traveling, uh, or they might even say, with this we go into our spirit. We go into our spirit to do this, because they didn't. The concept of the mind wasn't a concept they knew about, right? Not those kinds of words. So when we then use the constructs, let's say sensing and opening into the undercountry, y'all do realize that whenever you sense an opening, you're not actually creating it. It's already there.
Mhm.
It's already there. And we know that substance, the way we know these physical objects in this room, for instance, a computer and all that, they're only hard, they're only solid to me because I'm vibrating at a similar rate.
Mhm.
As Bree says, to us, to you, we are fluid and we are permeable. To us, we are solid and you are permeable and you are not solid. Isn't that interesting? So the visionary constructs are about accessing something that's already there. It's like saying to the brain, we're going to shift over to this. In fact, playing with things that are invisible is saying to the senses, we're not going to use you right now. In fact, we're going to step out of seeing, smelling, feeling from this, from this, from this, these kinds of things into seeing from our spirit, seeing from our life force, which is why I always say that if you can't like visualize very well, and a lot of people can't, so you do better to just feel the presence of something. Like feel, sense something's presence, its arrival, sense a connection to that, sense an interface. So each one of these visionary constructs are like they're saying to your inner being, here's what to do, right? So fairy healing chamber. I'm going to go through the both ways it's used, but I really want to talk to the mechanics of it too. Um, and we open a place into the other world. You could open a whale. You could decide that for you, the surface of the world felt solid is a great stone, and you might sense a stone before you, and you move the stone, and there's that. Some sense the opening and then the spiral staircase. Now, if you do the opening with the spiral staircase, you can go into genetic propensities. And that was one of the,
Meaning,
what was that? Genetic
meaning,
uh, meaning? Is that what you said?
yeah, meaning what? Genetic propensities.
Well, I
What are you
prefer,
referring to? Like actual genetics?
yep, actual genetics.
DNA,
Yep.
double helix.
I like using the spiral staircase to go in if I'm doing a river of blood, if I'm doing going into the healing chamber, because we don't know if that healing going to need to affect on the genetic level. The other thing is by going down the spiral, we are we're dismissing time, dismissing time, dismissing time, and what is hidden in that is that the spiral staircase takes you to that part of fairy where you need to be. Because the truth is, the healing chamber is not just like one zip code, it's a holism. So it is extended across many different levels of the fairy realms and where your steps stop says things. Now, next time you play with this, let those steps become both a transportive mechanism into the depths of the living memory where you need to go, but also use them as an oracle so that As you go down, you can look at the steps that you're stepping and be aware that you're stepping through layers. If you're going to heal someone, right? Layers of that person's illness or personhood, right? So what happens is the steps can tell you things on the way down.
Yeah, when I've done it, for me, when I go down, I pass through their auric field.
Oh, that's nice. Can you say more about how you do that? That's kind of interesting.
Because your auric field is 7 layers. So when I've had people on my table and I take them down into the healing chamber when I do my healing work, as I start coming down, I start scanning, I start getting information about their different fields.
That's nice. So for you, is there almost like either 7 steps or 7 major?
It's like staircases.
Yeah.
So it's like 7 floors.
Wait a minute.
So and then you get down to the 7th floor, which is down to the physical level, and you're on and into the physical body is where you end up, and the person is on the altar, on the table.
I love it. I love it. And so you came about that just intuitively.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, I'm not seeing you. I think I might have touched something or something. I'm seeing just Zoom. It says Zoom, a blue Zoom. What would I?
Probably along the bottom, you've got a little Zoom icon.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Because I love seeing you. That's a classic example of you're coming to this with a packet full of tools already, right? So Fairy can use those tools that are in your mind. It does that, right? Because what we're going into when we go down in this, we're not actually going into how do I describe this? We're not going into a separate place as much as we think we are. We're going inside of life. We're going inside a place. We're going into an organism itself. When we go into the underworld, we are going inside the earth or organism, the earth as a living organism, its soul. The underworld is also, just as we got the river of blood level, and there we have basically the soul of humanity, right? And then, but as we go deeper, we get into the intertwining of our souls and our visions with the vision and soul of our planet. As we go down deeper yet, we're getting into the soul of our world. So you're inside of the mind of the planet. Let me say that again. You are inside of the mind of the planet. Or if you want to use the word soul, you could do that too. But you are inside of it when you go in the underworld. In fact, the whole directing of your attention to go down is to say we're not going away from, we're going into the origins. We're going into the uprising tide of ancestral wisdom. You look like you want to say something, Pantera.
Well, because it feels more like, for me, it's almost like going in. When you said that, my sort of epiphany, if you want to call it that, is that we're entering the Earth's crystalline brain.
I love that. I love that. Because we are going inside first where I think, let me think about that a minute. I like the vision of that a lot because, the ballads make it clear.
Because I find, because that was part of what I was getting to, that this work is coming I'm going to be getting, what the message I got was from the pineal gland, which is the crystalline brain,
mm-hmm.
which inversely is like being substituted
mm-hmm.
in my brain and there.
That's powerful. That is powerful.
And that's where the communication is being transmitted and downloaded to and from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You might want to play with that in terms of vision.
Well, I've already started a little bit because ever since Rhonda tapped in and said, it's coming from here, isn't it? You're utilizing the pineal gland is being activated.
Yes.
in this.
The pineal gland, isn't it? Isn't that the one? Or is
It's in the dead center. It's pretty
right.
much almost like the dead center behind the ventricles.
But isn't that the one that, if looked at, say under a microscope, it looks literally like it's starlit, like it's points of the
Yes.
light? Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought. And it's the one that, if from the side, if you were to pour, say, some kind of dye in, as it goes in and around to where it's at, it forms the eye of Horus.
I think, yes.
Yeah, isn't that wild? And I mean, forms it like perfect. It looks just like the hieroglyph. So, yeah. Well, the thing is, and what you're getting at, and this is part of power of fairy magic, is us understanding that we and the planet are one.
Hmm.
And ultimately, what fairy tradition does is it digs out that relationship from the deep mind of humanity that knows that, right? And in fact, one of the things that plagues humanity is that, I talk about the abandonment wound, right? Well, the abandonment, fear, fury, and shame. So there's a piece of shame inside humanity that's not related, to the exile, the believing in the exile. It's connected to knowing that it has drifted away from something it knows or was supposed to do, but it can't remember, but it knows it's really bad that they drifted away, right? So, like, in its mind, deep inside the memory of our form, it knows that it and the land are one, right? It knows that there is no division, and that very land that it just did polluting on or disrespecting on is a piece of themselves. Not even just, that's my mother, that's you. And this is how the ancients are. This land, this earth, is not, we're not extensions of it. We're not somewhere else. We are, you wouldn't say that a petal on a flower is an extension of the flower. It's not. It's a direct part of the flower. And see, our healing comes with us. It most comes when we can come out of resistance to this upflowing tide, doctoring tide of the planet itself. The planet is always making us. It's constructing us all the time. In fact, we get the instructions by eating things grown from the soil. You know? So every time we go down, we're in this process of retrieval. And we're also in this process of uh, sort of banishing a type of curse that was placed, detailing our underworld as a place of hell and damnation and horrors and forbiddenness. You got to understand what that by itself creates probably 50% of the DSM diagnosis. Stems from the sense of homelessness, directionlessness, uh, non-contentedness, all the things that come with feeling also that there's this innately thing wrong, or something's wrong. Like, how if a person lies to someone, let's say they're in a relationship and they're really lying to their partner about something that's very core, very meaningful, right? And eventually that's going to come out. It's going to come out because they're in a conflict with themselves, because they know that that was not right, and they know that would break their lovers or their wives or whoever's uh, heart, and but they feel like they dare not tell them, and it leaves them in a conflict. So now their sense of harmony in the relationship is constantly eroding, even if they somehow put it way back here. It's eroding until they're able to maybe say, confess, and heal it. Uh, but it erodes because they're stretched, they're dichotomized. So our whole species suffers from this stretchedness, right? This creating a false image of itself and a false distance of itself from the upflow from this planet. It has given the downflow the permission to come. But the downflow without the upflow is going to be anxiety, 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 anger, 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 heat, heat, heat. It's not going to be tempered. So when we point all of our attention downward, we're saying whatever it is about the reason we're going, in this case healing, we are unearthing something dormant. We are going uh, to dig up something that the person's body or mind or soul or whatever type of malady it is has forgotten. Because dis-ease comes in when we're not at ease, when somehow the alignment's off. Well, the truth is the alignment's off from the bulk of the culture, you know.
What do you mean by forgotten?
Our body knows how to heal itself.
Oh, okay. So okay. I see what you're saying. So it's forgotten. It's what it needs to do.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
what you're saying. Okay.
It's forgotten. And it's forgotten because likely the brain has interceded somewhere along the way with something that has interrupted the body's natural communication process, right?
Right.
To the point where the Christian church teaches that we are to avoid all things of the flesh. So that would include listening to the flesh, giving authority to the body. I have a theory that this raises brows for a lot of people. I'm not so sure the Star Walker is the higher self. I think it is a sacred and eternal self. I think the body, the physical body, may be the actual higher self. It is the concentrated effort of millions of years of evolution. It is the one that the other two depend on in order to fulfill their destinies. And so concentrated into it is all the wisdom that Earth has. All of that's in our body. Nothing's withheld from us. But states of dis-ease come in when we're not congruent, like we're, remember the attunement alignment agreement concept? When we're not in alignment with our core selves, what I call the uprising tide or uprising pulse of ancestral wisdom. And when I say ancestral wisdom, not just human, the wisdom of the earth itself that's rising up through the magnetic field all the time. The magnetic field's another one of those wells that we drink from all the time, without which we're goners. We're goners. So when we do a fairy healing, we go with compassion, right? Now, compassion is this really powerful thing because compassion is an umbrella type of energy, right? When we have compassion for someone, it wraps around in some ways the person, not like a cage, like a blanket,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we, of course, if we're empaths, we have to be careful that blanket doesn't get, then we don't self-identify with that blanket and absorb.
Well, that you don't wear the dirty blanket.
Right, right.
Got to make sure we do the laundry.
Bree said this compassion part, she said, is all a part of grace. She said, well, she's very big on grace, really big on grace. Because grace is the non-conflicted core. It's the breathing heart. It's the givingness. It's us demonstrating the givingness so that we are not decreased ever by giving compassion. Compassion never decreases us. So compassion also wraps itself around whoever we're thinking about and gives us a heartful connection, right? And once we have the heartful connection, we have a magnetic one, which is why we can take them with us to the underworld. We can take a quality of their walker, an energetic doppelganger, as it was, an image down there, and then have the image worked on, bring it back out, and then upload it. to the individual. And see, the thing is, the underworld power gives us the ability to doctor each other. Because at the underworld level, we begin to dissolve as individuals. We begin to, this is why, have you noticed when you're in the underworld, there's a fluidic nature. An image is there and then it may bloop, bloop, change to something else right in front of your eyes. It's not like watching TV or looking around your room right now. Things aren't real crystal. They also move. Pantera, I saw a look on your face again.
No, I'm agreeing.
So, yeah.
No, I totally agree.
Now, this thing about that, the underworld is very important too to understand. You see, because of the way our minds have been trained to work, we've got all these set points, these concrete, what my friend Joe calls masturbations. And these things that must be this way, they are this way. And so all of those masturbations are actually soul cages. They're like bars of soul cages. They're set points. And nature will, to a degree, comply with those set points. Because that seems that's what we want. When we go to the underworld, we are implying already energetically, we're going into the foundation, going into the undercurrent, right? We're going into that which flows beneath and waters the tree of whatever arrives from it, right? That's why when we die, we just die out of form, but we go into the undercurrent. And we continue to rise up through the living. We're not that far away at all. The going into the underworld, the part that really takes the most getting used to it, and it's the reason you got to do it over and over and over and over until the feel of it starts to become natural, easy, and also until we're no longer contriving it or trying to shape it with our minds or filling in things, right? But instead letting it arrive as it arrives. And see, why is this important? See, all right, you got someone you love them, got compassion for them. The compassion now is wrapped around them, and you're taking that image, and that image is held in a place of love with you, right? And you're taking them down with you out of a set point into fluidity. So you're already making space for healing to happen. The moment you do this, the moment you soul reach, the moment you go, and soul reaching is simply this, y'all, feeling the presence of. You're extending your core sense. Remember, Bree says we don't have 5 senses per se. We have 5 portals of one sense, which is aliveness. That's what she calls it, aliveness. I would call it maybe even sensation, to sense something. Okay, so when we soul reach mind touch, right? We could do it now. We're sitting here talking or being together, and we want the underworld to open to us so we can practice this fairy healing. Without putting your hands out in front of you, without any of that. Just feel around, not with your finger, but just sense around your room or in front of you, around on the floor. Sense an opening. Sense a place where you can feel a pulsation happening. Now sense it opening. And sense the feeling of blue, silver, cool light coming up from it. Like a peppermint patty. Woohoo! Do you see how easy it is? Can you feel it? It's actually becomes more powerful when you don't have to move around. So now what you've done, that's soul reaching. Soul reaching is, I reach my aliveness to the aliveness of, and fill in the blank, right? So I'm reaching to the aliveness of the breathing nature of the earth and its pores. It's the space between particles. Because we know it's there. We know it's there. And so, in fact, we're working this way. You can be here talking. I could be here talking and have already done 5 or more chambers for folks. Because I can move very quickly with them because I've done it so many times. That's where you want to go. That's where you want to go. So when we're going under, we're going down, we're soul reaching to the place of life's survival. And then to the place of life's uh, gestation. Because remember, we are emergent. One way of thinking of it is you got this spring, right, in the woods or woods on your property, right? Or a whale. Um, and you got this circular thing, maybe, or a square stone thing, and there's water in it, and that water's coming up from an aquifer of some type, like a stream, a creek, an artesian well, something. And if you watch that water, you'll notice the water doesn't actually set still. There's going to be movement on top from the wind or movement definitely from beneath, and you will see bubbles coming up. What you're looking for when you soul reach, is just like those bubbles. You're going, okay, let's see where the bubbles of energy are rising, right? From the unseen to the seen. Because those are the areas that bring life force into, say, your room, your land that's there. And they may shift too. Some of them shift around. So, fairy healing chamber. The first thing you're doing is your compassion for another, and you're feeling the potentiality of their healing. You're already feeling it. So you're like, I know the fairy healing chamber. Because we can't believe in this stuff. We have to know. We have to be resolved. Within us, we go, okay, so I'm feeling for that arrival of that place or that state of existence of the world's holism where I need to reach to, that department of the world's life. And then we begin our descent, carrying them with us. Now, as we do, we can use the steps. They can tell us things. The walls can tell us things. Often, I say, those images that show up on the walls, those are really useful. And the more you use that, the more you'll get more like oracular stuff from that. Because you can see things going down and going back up. So you're going down below the river of blood. The truth is the chamber is below the river. The river is actually almost physical. It's right at the edge. It's etheric. It's the etheric quality of your blood that's flowing into your blood, not from physicality, but from non-physicality. And it flows through the strands of DNA as well. That's more the stars, but so you're really going down into beyond the rhythm of ancestral tide. And the reason it's important to understand you're going down and under it is because you want to find where the dis-ease is between the perfect image of the person's well-being, which the dreamer has, and how it is shifted maybe when it rises up through the ancestral stuff. So if I go down beneath the river, right? If I'm under the river, I'm down at this pulsing place, right? I'm down at the place where planetary powers beyond just this planet are working in the planet's soul itself, which is why I guess 7 principal planets. So I'm at the place of a coalescence down there, right? And I'm down there to create an invisible, inspire an invisible prototype of the healthiest nature of them to arrive again. So that I can take it back like what do they call those stem cells? Like a stem cell, right? Except this is like an energetic stem cell. So the whole thing of the wise woman, the chamber itself, and the seven principal powers, they are actually one being. Absolutely. Andy?
So it's so interesting because you're talking, when you just said that we're inspiring the healthiest version of the person to arrive again, right? It reminds me of the very first time we did the healing chamber, because what I envisioned, what I saw in vision, so not what I made up in my little brain, but what I saw was this like blueprint get sorry get like shown on top of the person, and it was sort of like where the person's walker was kind of being shaped a little bit like clay to go back into that blueprint, sort of, because to me it felt like that was our original blueprint. And
Absolutely.
where are you out of alignment to this blueprint? Let's see what we can do to sort of wiggle you back into those places. So that makes super sense. So
Well, what's interesting about that too, Pandy, is the fact that one of the layers of your aura looks like a blueprint.
really,
It's a blueprint of the physical body.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Wow. Wow, that's kind of intense. Because, in the fairy tradition, they talk about something called a culmineth. I'm really not sure if I can spell it right or not, but I could try. It's in the Reverend Kirk's work. A culmineth is a double. And they'll say that at a funeral, the double is often seen. But it's a smaller version, standing around somewhere watching the funeral procession. Sometimes they'll refer to it as a sort of a co-walker. But there's clearly saying a sheath, a quality of us that had the design of us in this life is now watching the dissolving of the design of us in this life, right? And that's why we also, those images like the washers at the ford, to wash you, not only to wash the sorrow away, to wash the design off of you. Because you're done with this life. When the washers at the ford, they're washing the blood-stained clothes, which means the soul-stained clothes, the soul-stained covering, Yeah, it's this stuff. Thing about the folk stuff, I find, it is profoundly accurate about physiology, genetics, astrobiology. I could go on and on and on. But it's all in a metaphorical, folkloric metaphorical kind of package, right? Did they know this? There is a state of knowing that is different than a state of knowing we're used to. There's a cognitive knowing where we go, I can cite the research, and I can cite the data, and I can cite the formula, I can cite the theory and all that, right? That's one type. There's another type of knowing that knows it knows, but doesn't know the full why it knows. Like, it may know where it came from, but it doesn't know what that means. It just knows it's true. And often the healer and the magic worker works in this area that is a circular knowing, right? That knows full chunks of truth and dynamics. But if you were to say, now, tell me how all that works, they go, I don't know, I just know it's true, right? But if they were to describe that to someone, say, who knows the scientific part of it, they go, oh, that's this, and that's this. It's because the folk workers, it wasn't just about education, and it wasn't about simplicity either. I mean, that was there. Our brain can get in our way of the most powerful things sometimes. And the truth is, our dissecting, our rational and deductive reasoning is probably going to go away again, because we got what we needed from it, right? So now, as we reintegrate the other part of the brain, this won't go away, it'll merge into it. It will reduce, deduce, and induce, and do circular all at the same time. It will shift back and forth, have me thinking, and it'll be wonderful because we'll know that there's certain things we don't have time to figure out. We have to know it, right? You know, there will come a time where to fix a problem, we won't go, oh my God, I got to look things up. We'll say, just a minute, I've got to download from the, primal, or upload from the primal mind, download from the universal one. You know? One moment, I've got to do, I don't know, Google, right, internally, Google, you know, we are going there. We should have been there all along, for real. But there's lots of reasons, I think, why we have been lured into forgetfulness, only to remember, because I think that's a whole nother discussion, but I think it has to do with compassion. As you're becoming a deity capable of creation and destruction straight out of its mind, then the best thing you can't have a being with that kind of power who doesn't have compassion and an understanding of the journey through form or through life, whatever form that life is in. So when we go down, we're in this process of retrieval, right? So that's the healing, that's to restore. Now let's reverse it, right? When we go down, we're retrieving that prototype, we're retrieving that harmony, that unconflicted core that we were born with. When I say born to, I mean soulfully born, not necessarily physically born. Because some children are born with some body things that have forgetfulness in them via, genetics, via the exposure to chemicals, any number of things. But so when we're going down, keep this in mind again, we're retrieving things out of dormancy. And that's for everything, by the way. Every time we've ever gone down to do work, we're not creating anything. We're retrieving something that's already in the living memory. Now, when we take the image of a person into our compassion, we are taking an image of their becoming, right? Because that image is at the level of the well of becoming. It's what they became. We're taking that down and saying, hey, lady, you know what he's supposed to be. You know what he's supposed to be connected to everything else, including the holism of the earth. You know what he's supposed to be in a way that I couldn't possibly ever. But here's what he's become. and my compassion is holding open the potentiality, for the miraculous while they can't do it. Because sometimes you have to be the witness, you're the one that holds open possibility, because sometimes we're ill or our faith is broken, we're just hurting and we can't do it. So sometimes we have to be the ones to take someone they can't take themselves. So when we take them down there, we're taking them to retrieve something, to have what they become, I wouldn't say programmed, recalibrated, in alignment with its original design, its original, how I heard it described was what it was in Eden. And that power for what it was in Eden. Because remember that chamber, as a holism, sets above another layer of holism. Below it is the dreamer and the land. Which is why whenever we rise, remember I say we feel a breath that starts to bring us up. We do the same thing with River of Blood. These are the subtleties that are hidden in the visions. Now, I want to make sure I've spoken about that part of it.
What I found interesting, Orion, is that it taps into exactly what my principles and ideas are for healing touch.
Wow. How so?
Because it's just rebalancing and putting people back to where they are supposed to be at. Mm-hmm. So the body can do what it's supposed to do.
See, I love it. But the way they used to see this concept of the underworld being this foreboding, scary place. Other than in Greek tradition, you have some of it, but even that, it's not all of the river Styx and spooky place. There's an aspect of it that's also heavenly. But for the most of the ancient people, it wasn't foreboding. Only one section was purgatory, the place of emptying out our pain, the place where we or we shape things in the image of our pain. Which, by the way, we pass beyond that for people. We're passing through that. On your way down, healing's probably already happening.
Mhm.
Because as you're going down, there's also, you can bet there's forces. The underworld itself is working on the image, and it's working on you too. And it's working on, because every time you take someone to the healing chamber, that also infers there's something about your compassion and something about the energetic nature of yourself that actually also has the healing power for them. But every time you take a person down to heal them, remember, we're all connected. In the underworld, we're all connected. You're getting healed too. You're getting healed too. See, we're not directly doing the healing. We're being the cycle pump for the healing to happen. But every good healer knows we can't heal. We can only mediate the healing presence and stimulate the healing presence within the other person to the best of our, our skills and our contact. But healing itself is a mystical state of harmony to achieve within the person. I had a physician some years ago, Mary, who I loved. She's retired now. And wait a minute. I got a tickle. Mary once told me, she said, bring in this asthma stuff, which I got to get back on. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't have a cold, but my asthma, or not asthma, allergies are acting up like crazy this week. So,
As long as it's not the vid.
no, I don't think it's that. It couldn't be. Well, I mean, I don't think it could be. Excuse me, I'm getting there. I just forgot what I was saying because I coughed it right out. Yeah, what did I end on there? Oh, come on. All right. Get the hot tea. Y'all remember the last thought there I was sharing? I just lost it. I don't remember. Anyway, you're going down in a process of retrieval. You're not doing the healing. But your compassion is holding open the place for the healing to flow. This is why forgiveness and compassion are so powerful. When you forgive a person, it is not necessary for them to engage in the forgiveness process.
Nope, not at all.
Yep, at all. And your forgiveness will open the place for the natural state of the unconflicted core to rise. See, at your core, at my core, there is no conflict at all. Because the universe isn't divided. And at your core, you're a universe breathing light out of itself. You are a well that light is coming out of. So these constructs, I mean, it's layers and layers of stuff. So, what else to say this? So, you're bringing them into the place of living memory of the earth, where their original rhythm is, right? And you're saying, I'm going to affix you, what you have become here, and release any control, anything on it. Only thing I'm going to keep doing is pumping my compassion. Whether you know this or not, your compassion is the power that turns it on. Your compassion is the power that activates that whole holism. Because remember, they're out of touch with it. They can't get themselves right now there. So your compassion is I call it the horse. It's the horse for the healing. It's not doing the healing. It's the shaman itself that opens the space. That says, okay, reality has been held in place and crystallized, and has crystallized as this. I'm going to hold open the breathing space.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the fairy well itself.
Again, that's exactly what my principles are. I'm creating the space and creating the energy field for them to do what they need to do.
Sounds like you picked a really good model too of interpreting the healing. Yeah, the process. Because that person who developed that had to have been doing similar things to what we're doing.
It's just kind of mind-boggling to me right now.
Wow. Yeah, these things like forgiveness and compassion and grace. See, we're used to thinking them as the brain grabs a hold and goes, "What's that word and what's its definition?" But the truth is, if we strip away those concepts, it's really that those are all states of being,
Mm-hmm.
and they're words describing a state of being, right? And gracefulness is this potent thing that literally grace doesn't fight, doesn't have to. Grace allows you to relax when you're caught in a riptide in the ocean, and you do the dead man's float, the prone float, and allows you to float right above the rip.
Not the prone float.
Huh?
Not prone.
Okay.
Oh, dead man float. So yes, the dead man float is prone. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
I was like, wait a minute. I go, you're gonna die that way. Oh yes, the dead man float.
I learned it. I got caught in riptides once in the ocean, and I almost died. And I remember something inside that said, you're dying, right? Give up. You're dying. Let go. Relax.
Just do it.
And I relaxed, and it went right up. Well, this state of relaxation is a really, George Godfrey Leland called that the magical will. Did you know that? He called
The will to allow.
Exactly. And it's actually not passive at all. It's sort of like when you got to go to the bathroom, right? And you've been holding it for a long time, and you sit down to let that wee go, right? And you ever know sometimes it's like, oh God, come on, I'm gonna be so bad. Why does it come out? Oh, it's because you're so like you've been uncomfortable for a while. You've been holding it, and you're oh God, you're so. The thing you have to do is to not do.
I think that's more of a guy thing than it is a girl thing. You've got longer distance for things to travel than we do.
Oh, well, maybe poo will work that way. How poo? Where you're sitting there and like that as a guy, sometimes I have to like pause point, pause point, and do something that gets me to relax and let the body do what it already knows how to do, and that the mind's interrupting, with its stress and its oh my God. So I think so last few things I want to say about that is your compassion opens the space. The spiral is taking you to its roots. It's taking you beyond time, which is very important because their illness may not have arrived in this lifetime. It may be embedded in this lifetime, but that may not be where it's at. It may be arriving because there's a pattern that occurred in this lifetime that echoes something that happened then, and now this another old pattern, bloop, bloop, like those bubbles in the spring. So when you are down there and they're working on it and they operate, they take things out, put these things in, and all that, and then you arrive, or it's time to arrive. It's time to come back. Now, I want you to get accustomed to this whole concept of the natural rhythm. Like when you take someone, you take them down, You feel the sense of connection when you've been able to surrender their image over. You tend to feel when she's arrived and they've arrived and they're working. Sometimes she says, she releases you. She's like, go back, leave them here, and I'll send them back. Or it'll come back at dawn, or whatever she says. We have to work so hard to not predestine any of that. To have in our brain, well, she's going to do this, they're going to do that, because the rhythm may shift when you get down there, right? Inversions may happen when you get down there. We worked on a person in Vermont that had these interesting conditions going on. We went down and the 7 principal powers opened up their, how they have that cloak, they opened it up, and there were 7 principal powers inside each one, and they opened theirs, and there were 7 principal powers inside each one of them. So they were showing us the multidimensionality of this, right? That these are vast streams of power. So the concept of returning when she releases, or whatever, or she releases to you about it in your feelings, but coming up when this breath starts to rise you. Because what that means is when you feel the breath of the dreamer bringing you up, that means the space that needed to happen, the something to allow the heart to breathe, is already, now it's happening. So the healing is it's already on its way. You're being set back because basically what needed to be done has been done. And this is a way that the underworld keeps you from holding on to any images. Like, you'll notice you can only remember a lot of times pieces of it. It's because it flows back into living memory. It doesn't need to be in the brain's memory. What needs to be in the brain's memory will be, if there's certain words or certain concepts that need to come back, they'll be concrete, they'll be obvious. But when you flow up on that breath, it does something else. It clears you also, to ensure that nothing of your compassion sank into their illness. See, the breathiness of the dreamer in the land is about wonderment, the playfulness, freedom. In fact, the best way to come down there is not going, I'm so sick, I'm thinking my brain is sick. Instead, arrive happy, arrive thrilled to be an instrument for the healing. Literally just feeling good and happy to be a part of this, and filled with love, because that's breathing. That's a fluidic way of being. You don't want to go down there holding on to sorrow about their illness, right? Because if you hold on to the sorrow about their illness in the underworld, you're saying to the underworld, hold this. Does this make sense? You're saying, hold this. Nope, you surrender that image. Here you go. That's already taken care of. And now the breath of the one who dreams beyond the capacities brings you back. Now, so that moving at the other direction starts to make sense. When you're healing someone to stay in this world, you got to take them to the other world. It's because if they're broken in this world, we got to take them to the fixedness. Right? We got to take them to the fixedness. Here it's become solid and formed something. We got to go to the preformed self. Right? And let the powers, the holisms that be, work on and open the forgotten chambers of well-being. Now, let's say the opposite needs to occur. Let's say that being in a form is starting to destroy their underworld nature. You may say, how could that be? When a person is suffering in unimaginable pain, and they're dying, like Brija, when I was working with her, she had cancer of the spine. It was pretty awful. And she had chosen, to die with dignity. And I was part of that. And I'll never forget, it was an incredible, wonderful process to be a part of. The reason, because several people asked me, why did you say yes to that? That had to be hard. I said, because her soul was going to be withering. Because the pain of this had the potential to be so horrible, and she knew it, that she would start, the soul would start to dissolve some of its memory of well-being as well. Illnesses can leave scars on the soul,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So now you have to think about just the opposite. You have to think of, this body is completed. This body cannot be regenerated at this point. So now how do I preserve the healing and the vitality of their soul? When
Okay.
what did it
No, I'm just agreeing. I'm like, okay.
You're still doing healing, right? But
Hmm.
you realize, because there's a certain point, whether it's broken down by illness or whether we have burnt the body up, we just burnt the oxidative stress of oxygen that has burned it up, we've just burned it out. It's time for it to disintegrate, so it can recompose. So it's time to deconcentrate itself, because that's all your form. Your form is a concentration of consciousness,
Hmm.
right? So when you do the opposite, you're bringing a breathing nature back to the physical form in a way that allows the soul to be able to withdraw. The dream walker can let go of its stickiness. And then when it lets go of its stickiness, that's what holds us together. That's
Which is therefore the potential of this form.
yes. Potential, and what there's a energetic agreement between all the cells. That's the best way to describe it, like a connective energy between all the particles, the cells, the molecules. And that something that's flowing between the spaces holding it is the dream walker.
So so you've said in the past with regards to the healing chamber that would be a time that you would bring the healing chamber up.
Yes, exactly. Because what I'm doing is I'm going down to get the holism and say
And release it.
exactly, and saying, holism, I I'm but a man, you know, and you are the mystery. You are the mystery of the well-being of the world and of all living things. I need to help. I need to help facilitate you helping this being, right? Because remember, it won't come out unbidden. We have free will. Free will is actually a law for the species itself. Nature does not disobey it. So it doesn't come and just rip us, right? So what happens is, exactly, I go down. Well, for me, I don't have to go down. I've been there so much that the signature, and you probably have the signature in you too, because you've done it so many times that you could sit here and you could just feel that chamber. So you know how when you take them down to the chamber, you know, there's like 4 points, you know, or four. It's a square, or a square that's rounded, you know, and you have these 7 powers around it. What I simply do is I open the well over the bed, and I reach through the well to the memory, to that place in the living memory of the land where that healing chamber is. Now that brings to attention another concept that really begs a little time: living memory. Living memory is not like a memory of an event, right? That happened. It's not that kind of a living memory. Is the the living awareness of something that is an ongoing state of reality, right? That is an ongoing truth. Like in the living memory of the land, it's the original stellar pulse of this planet. That's in the living memory. In the living memory of the land is where all differentiation dissolves. And one great being, the earth being, knows everything, because we're all cells in the body of that one being. in the living memory of the land is every quality of the land that we know. Like, obviously, beauty must be in the living memory of the land. Look at our beautiful planet. Look at y'all. You know, beauty is there. The ability to know all the cognitive stuff that makes us human and cool must also already be in the living memory of the land. We're expressing it, right? So the living memory of the land has all the potentiality of the planet as well as all the distilled wisdom of the planet. It lets go of all the outer forms and all of that stuff and distills things into their just out their truth, right? So this is why we can go to a place that's deforested, open up that well, leave it open, reach in to the living memory of the land, into the paradisical vision of that land before it was stripped, before it was harmed. And if we bring that pulse of that memory up, we bring that living memory up, it will actually spread out and will pull to itself the shaping forces to reestablish well-being there. You're basically reaching down to that component of the dream walker of the land, which is the dreamer. So, am I losing anybody? Is stuff making sense? Or how about you, Marla?
Yes, it makes sense. As I asked Andy earlier, I said, do we have a cosmology of this written up and show, because I'm a visual person, to show where things are in relationship to other things?
Yeah, now keeping in mind that these aren't fixed points. What they are is it's really more like a river. It's like a river. It's like the same river, but it's places along its rhythm, right? Because we're going down through, like if we thought, crystallized form, etheric form, almost form, but not form, right? Then we go down deep single points of light, which is like the astral plane. Then we go deeper, it's like that. We're going down from particle to wave to causality, you know. And so as long as we see it along a strata, which is one of the reasons I love to take the tree, you can take it and you can also form a stream. This one stream of them, of the keys, and see and you'll watch all the rhythmic changes along the way. It's going from form to formlessness, formlessness to form. It's cool stuff. So the thing about the tree of enchantments, and I've heard this mentioned, I don't even know how many times. Sophia was the first person that said it to me. Now she worked with it. She said, Orion, this thing is perfect. She said, it is she said, this thing is reality. She said, you can take science and go, and you can just strip away, the change in the language, but it's saying the same thing. I said, yes, except science has not caught up to us. We know that the whole thing is the life of one vast being. That vast being, or state of being, is consciousness itself. And the tree is showing the ways it changes and grows in the beings that live, or states of being that live in those qualities of the vast being. So what we do with the bed then of a person who is, they're dying. And you got to make sure this is eminent, right? And I prefer to have, with their permission, but it does not have to have their permission conscious, right? Let's say they've gone comatose and they're not going to be able to be revived. They're not going to come out of that coma, right? And they left a message that please don't revive them or to pull the plug, right? Then the family is asked, can you come in and do anything that might allow them to die on their own before we have to go ahead and pull the plug? And you can say, yeah, I could try one last little thing for you. This will, and it very well may do it. Oh, but it can do no harm, because what happens is when you do this, right? If it doesn't speed up the dying process, and they still have to pull the plug, it's still going to loosen the fabric in such a way that the person they pull the plug, they're probably going to just be like, fade on out. Right on that, and I have observed this several times. It is befuddling how powerful this thing is. right? So when you bring the holism out to them, you understand the whole implication of it is that you're bringing the restorative holism to restore the highest level of health. The highest level of health for someone whose body is simply not going to regenerate, and there's no way for it to regenerate. The highest level of health is to comfortably get them out of their bodies and without convulsing, without energetic convulsing, without fear and without attachment to the thought forms of self. And how Breja, post-mortem, spoke to me about how it felt when I did this with her. She said, Orion, I remember taking the medicine because I had helped to, prepare the cup. She said, and I remember drinking the medicine, and I laid back, and she said, and all of a sudden, I was no longer in a bed, like a bed the way I was. I was in a bed of the most beautiful flowers. She said there was this sense all around me. She said, and this warmth took a hold of me, wrapped itself around me. She said, with the most comforting feeling ever. And she said, and then I was drawn down away from all woes, all fear. She said, I was singing with y'all as you were singing the song to me while I was dying, and you couldn't hear me. I said, well, I could, but, isn't that beautiful? And so that's what this thing does. If you did this for a beloved, right, even if they were Christian, it will modify itself. It will become Jesus and the disciples. It'll become whatever their imagination needs it to be. But once you've invited it out, what you've done is you said, holism of the world, please. And my compassion implores you, reduce their suffering, bring peace to them. That peace is actually what lets them die. The truth is, the peace doesn't let them die. Peace brings them to life. But that life is on the other side. So you would bring it out. All you really have to do is open the well, first well, and then the second well, and then raise them up. Literally, what I do, is I literally take my hand down and raise the principal powers, because you want them there before her. They should be there and make ready for the queen. Yeah, so that if there's any adjustments in the room that they feel need to be made, they'll move around and they'll do it. And then they tend to take like the 4 points of the bed. This one had big, little poles that are on the side of old beds. And I watched several of them go into those. I watched one go into the mattress. I watched one go into the ceiling. So they were forming literally a holism in which she would sleep. And the night before she died, she said, come in, sit on the bed with me. I want to talk to you, because she wanted to ask me how I've become so familiar with death and comfortable and all of that. And I remember saying to her, I said, well, yes, darling, but first we've got to turn something. We've got to push the pause button on something, because this is the death chamber and it's not for me. For you. She goes, oh, yes, that's right. And literally, all I had to do was receive the vision just under the surface. Then I could sit in bed, we could chit chat. When I got up, I raised it back up again. And I asked her, I said, what was the nights before, as she was starting to her immune system, everything was starting to be pulled off of her. I said, what was it like to lay in that bed? She said it was like the wind was massaging me every night. She said I felt comfort in places of my body where I felt pain. She said now I was getting weaker, but I didn't experience the weaker as like a bad feeling. I experienced it as that sleep that you just can't seem to stay awake from, that drowsiness. And the doctor was observing this. So that chamber was open for 3 days in total in that bed. And I opened it further and further. And how you do that is when you brought them up and you brought them out, right? They're there. They're affixed. Then you go back again the next day sense the well opening, sense that power of them coming up further yet. What you do is you're bringing more of it, and more of it, and more of it, until you get to that level that you start seeing physically, okay, it's at that strength, that's right. And just get ready for what you'll see. See, we had a doctor there, and she was observing the whole time. You know, she would, well, she didn't stay there. She'd come by intermittently, and she said she charted her immune system the way it was going down, different, that she was watching systems sort of collapsing. Because she asked me, she said, how are you doing this? And she is not in pain. And that's an ancient Chinese secret. No, I said, it's a long talk to how that happens. But I said, I'm not doing it. She's allowing it because she gave me the permission to. And she knows the compassion. So what you do then is that keeps, we'll keep working on them, on the person. You do not have to be physically there to do it. Remember, you've worked with non-physicality all along. For the fairy worker, physicality is a luxury, but not a necessity. Once you feel this, I would love to experience this sometime with all of you. Maybe what we can do is we can somewhere, somehow go to a bed, open it. Well, I don't know how we do that. I don't want to open anyone's bed and then turn it off and find out I didn't turn it off all the way or something and get a call and say, they croaked. It won't work if you're not ill and ready. It's not going to work. If it's not a part of your rhythm to go, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen.
Can we make some suggestions? Anyway, that was being tacky.
Yeah, I was funny. I was.
Whoa, Marla.
I know.
I get what you're saying.
Popcorn. Popcorn.
Believe me, I've thought about that before.
Yeah, I can't do. Yeah, okay. I'll go
well,
back on mute.
I could bring in such a restful bed.
Oh my God. Oh well.
But so when it's done, though, you need to. I hear people say release it. It's not that you're releasing it as much as. Well, you are releasing it, but I don't like to say it's you didn't invoke it. Because you can't invoke it. It's inherent in nature. All you're doing is making the space for it to arrive. These visionary constructs are like they're like sensory nature. There's like they're operations of your physical senses that lets you extend to something that's already inside the living memory of the earth and simply draw it out, right, to the surface level. Because humanity used to know this a lot more. We used to know how to die better. I tell you, old timers used to be able to do things like say, well, I'm going to die next Wednesday at so and so o'clock. I've known elders to do that. They knew, and they knew the general rhythm of it, and then they were control freaks and said, all right, here's the date I'm willing to die, because I've got other things to do before that. I just can't have it interrupt that, right? And so, and as long as they're on the path of letting go, doing the resolve, they'll get it. It'll happen, So when they're done, then, and you try not to have people, once you've done this, you recommend that people not be sitting on the bed if they can, it really won't like just snatch you and pull you down and eat you. Although maybe we can do a version of it that will do that. But if others sit on the bed while it's a death chamber, it can, what it can do is if there's anything operating in it, like for me, it wouldn't be wise right now because I've got necrotic tissue in my body. It would kill me, but it would cause probably more, it would cause that voice of that to get a little louder and then the body to get more inflamed about it. Because you don't want, was it catabolic and anabolic in the body at the same time, like that. So just advise if you do it, let the family or whoever you're doing it for know to kind of keep people away. The other thing is the more they touch the body, the more they interrupt with that too. The more they interrupt with dying anyway. Yeah, is that, I saw the look on your face, Pantera. Is there a differing opinion on that?
No, no, I totally agree. I think when it comes to that, yeah, there is some, because it pulls them back.
Yeah.
It pulls them back instead of allowing them to release.
Yeah.
Particularly if there's physical contact.
And it causes them to bring their life back to the form again. It's like, oh
That's
my,
what I mean. That's
yeah,
what I mean.
life
It
is out
does.
there.
It prevents them from releasing. Like they could start going, and it's like sleeping. Like you're in such a deep. You're falling asleep. You're falling asleep. But falling asleep, and then, God damn it, Aster touches you, and you're like, oh, I'm awake again.
Yes. Yeah. I say when I'm sometimes when I'm contemplating, or I'm opening up to the stream, or I'm relaxing, bringing myself to a different place, and I'll say to the folks around me, uh, just kind of pretend I'm not here. Don't summon me out. Yeah, yeah. Don't summon me out, because um, I don't want to be out. And right now my work's in, or if I'm in the woods and I'm doing a sacred journey in the underworld, but I'm bilocating, I'll say, if you see me, please don't, yeah, pretend you don't even see me,
I
because
am not the seer you think you see.
right. Because if you even are watching me, that piercing will start to draw a part of my energetic field over, right? You don't want to be drawn. Oh, look at your hair.
It's I I'm no attention. That's not what I'm trying to do. It's been stuck in my earbud.
You look hot, Deb.
Oh, thank you. I
Hot
want
lizard.
purple.
Yeah.
I had a process question. So you had talked about
See where we at.
opening the first well, opening the second well, inviting and raising the principal powers up. And then at that point, are you based, does she kind of follow when she's ready and feels like the space is ready?
Okay, that's a good question. It could go either way. What I tend to do is when they're there, they tend to be the ones that truly cause her to arrive. Because when they have set the structure, the energetic structure of the room to be ready for her, because they won't want it out of congruence with her. Because if she comes in and it's out of congruence, it won't hurt her, but it could shake up the space. It could shake things up. They do this calibrating because they don't want it to drift. They don't want any of that. So they're doing things we don't even understand most of the time. Every time that I have ever opened and then placed my hand to the well, and I was hoping she would take my hand like a lady and come up. The hand withdraws, and she gives me a scowl when she comes out, and a wink. One, she doesn't need help. She's here to help out. The other is she's coming. Everything about everything she's doing has an energetic potency, right? So even the rate that she's coming is a calibration happening. If I reach in, I'm disturbing a holism that knows what it's doing with a need to, whether it's a need to please, a need to be courteous, a need to, but that's brain stuff that's penetrating in. You do better to just witness, and invariably when she comes forward, sometimes she comes straight up out of the bed, sometimes she comes straight up out of the person, you know, and so she'll come as she comes, and then sometimes she comes as many and not one. I've seen her arrive and then go to every single person who is in the house waiting for their beloved to die and do things for them. But yet she's got the principal power still, like upstairs or wherever the other person is, and she has. But remember, these beings are multifractile. She's placeless and timeless, so she can be everywhere at once. So what she's doing when she goes to them is she's calibrating them to let go. She's reminding them how to be at peace. Because that's what she does. She doesn't make things happen. She makes the adjustments that allows the thing that is natural to be. She brings things out of resistance, basically. And so now you want to feel something when she does that. Now, don't be surprised if sometimes she can arrive in your room. If she arrives in your room after you've done this work and closed this, she's probably concerned that maybe you pulled some stuff off and if she's come for that. She could send the washerwomen to do things. She could send a single thread of the weaver to rise up through your bed and grab something off of you. So just get ready, because once you get this intimate with her, because one thing to go there, then it's another to bring her out to your plane. Now she's got more access to you. Personally, it's the best thing ever.
So she's not the weaver?
Oh yeah, she's not the weaver. She's a quality of the weaver. She's a dynamic. The weaver is a vast dynamic.
Okay.
She is the utterer in the land. The weaver is. She is literally all the motions and threading of existence for this planet. Yeah. And so this is one of her motions, one of her major motions, right? One of her major qualities that she does is she holds she doesn't see, she's not the maker of structural integrity. She's the maker of the rhythms of vision, not the vision itself. See, imagine this: a plasmatic pulse, a pulse of aliveness that comes from the dreamer in the land, which is the eternal in the planetary, right? That causes, as that pulse happens, it causes a rhythmic effect that causes the weaver's presence to unfurl from that ignition. And then that's the breathing space within the plasma. So remember the whole thing of first the mother gives birth to the child, then the child gives birth to the mother. It's really, all you're really seeing, and the Bible says it too, when it says in the beginning was the Word, right? So you had the breathing space, and the Word became God, right? So now the Word, out of the living Word, God, the great igniter, was born, right? The ignition of plasma was born. But because the source of that is the breathing void's inside of the igniter of all life too. So that means whatever now extends from it will have her inside of it. And then that will unfurl. And that will, so it keeps going. It's amazing because it keeps doing it. And that's what creates the motion and the light of the river of stars. That is the river of stars. That extension. Is this making sense? It's hard but it is so perfect. It's crazy. And I love the Bible for that. It nailed it in the way it said it. Because in the beginning was the Word, in the beginning was the Word was with God. No, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. It became God, and the Word was with God. So the breath made the star. The star's got the breath inside of it, so we can also breathe the breath of being into things. It's only because she's inside of them. What's the look? Just a funny look on Pantera's face.
Well, one, I think there's a lot of, I'm hearing there's a lot of requirement of some release from people watching. They need to have their own personal releases. So we're waiting for a pause and a breath, and it was like, oh, there's one right there.
Do I hear lilies shaking with dew? Okay, let's take a break. I'm sorry. Because some of this, I just don't.
No, this is great. It's just
amazing. And I texted Pantera, I'm like, there needs to be a pause, but this is really good. But
I know, I'm afraid to stop them. him. I'm afraid to stop him. He's on a roll. I don't want to stop him, but people, I think, need to pee.
Well, now that I check in, I do too. I just hadn't noticed it.
All right.
Okay.
There's a lot of flow about to happen.
Let it go. Let it
No, not yet. Not yet.
go.
Not yet.
Okay, see you in just a little bit.
All right, quick, Ted. Go, go, go.
Love you. Da, 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 da. I'm on a little wheelchair right now, which
All you need is a damn bottle. Everybody else has to get up and go.
I know. Isn't it great? It's the best. I love my bottle. Oh.
Can I?
Hey, ask always it's over. Like, ask if you get me a bowl of ice cream.
Oh, I was gonna say you can't pee in a bowl. It splashes back. Don't do that.
My song is "Peeing in a Bottle." You remember that song? It's a genie in a bottle.
I know.
It's in a bottle. It's good.
Message. Yes.
So, rest bottle in a minute.
Just a FYI while everybody's peeing. I went to Wings today. Remember that the bookstore Wings? That's part of the Unity Church with temples. Well, it's no longer owned by Unity.
Oh.
No, it's okay. It's becoming more of a metaphysical shop.
Oh.
There's more space in it now.
Oh, okay.
And I left your email address with them as a potential lecturer
Oh, great. Thank you.
at some point in time. When the vid is over, and you're over your shit, so that you can, be.
I am so craving to visit with you. I mean, it's gotten silly. It's gotten silly because, I love our time together, but I'm craving it. It's wonderful to see how much it means. You know what I mean? I've been craving it though. So okay, and I've still got to call Chris. We played telephone tag. We're gonna talk about his store and what's going on.
Oh, that Chris. I'm like, which Chris are you? What
Rough
Chris?
Doctor. Yep. Because I want to mention him in the book.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I've still not gone and seen the shop or seen is the new shop really open? I don't even know where it is.
I think it is. I'll know probably tomorrow or the next day, so I'll let you know what I find out.
Yeah.
But that just sounded good, so, when he left a voicemail, he sounded good. Well, wait a minute. Now I'm acutely aware of the knocking fists of the Undines beating at the edge of my bladder.
Oh, Jesus.
See, now you gotta go.
I know. See, I didn't even think about it. See, let me get this.
Okay, well, that's why I had to leave. Well, that and ice cream, but yeah, okay.
Okay. I figured maybe one of you are there with this bottle. You're just smiling, just, no one knows. Oh, you got your ice cream? Is that pecan ice cream? No.
No, it is chocolate mint.
Ooh, I'll be right over. I have pecan, but
You need to teleport better.
okay, I know. I'm working on it. All right, see you in just a minute.
Okay.
Ah. There you go. Listen to it. Ask the boy. What? I'll call it up to ask her. I think it's after then, maybe. Oh,
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh man, that was hard.
Oh.
Oy vey. And my pen ran out of ink, so.
You were a hot mess.
Well, I have one of these like multicolor pens.
Oh, but you always run out of the black or the blue first.
Yeah, I just ran out of the blue. So, and it was interesting because like I've been using this for these notes because like when it's like this is what the topic is, so that'll be blue, and then some of the asides will be like the red or the green or whatever. And I'm like, fuck, now I have to switch my colors. And I have a similar one that has purple, but it's got like brighter colors, so it won't really work. I thought I had another one of these, and I can't find it. But yeah, hot mess. Oy vey.
And Nimi's like sitting here being a fireball next to me. I'm like, oh my God, you're so hot. She's been a Klingon kitty today.
It's okay.
Because I spent a night away from her and she's like, oh my God, where have you been?
Oh, lady, how dare you abandon her?
Why did you leave me?
I thought you were never coming back.
It was one goddamn night. So now she's attacking her fish and like laying by side and like leaning on me.
Yeah, you don't got a home thing. I got you. Okay.
Oh.
Well, no, we don't run about. I got world peace. They're out of town. I think I have my bag. I borrowed it. Oh, what are you doing? Peanut butter glass and peanut butter cup in caramel. Peanut butter glass and peanut butter cup in caramel. Is that fine? All right. Honey, thank you.
Oh, that town hall was in Miami. I didn't realize it was down here.
What town hall?
The Biden town hall that he held tonight. It was like an hour ago, I think, or something.
Oh.
With Lester Holt.
Oh. Oh. Oh, oh. Oh, yes. Oh. That's the rule. Look, come in and say hi to everybody. Huh? Look, come in. That's the point. So, bud. So, out. So. Hey, good boy. Boy.
Marla, Carl just said he was in a lot of pain today.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, he was in a lot of pain. He said yesterday and today was bad, so he was gonna go to bed. So anyway, he has, he has his bad days and he has his days that aren't quite as bad.
Right.
So I don't know what else. I mean, we all do what we can do. I do Reiki for him every day, and I know others pray for him and do things. But
Hi, Jips.
the group said hi, honey. Yeah, hi, whatever.
Sure, what the hell? Whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Two favorite Stacy's. What's wrong?
I know. So I don't know what else.
Damn it.
I don't know what else we can do for him. I know he looks for counselors. I don't know if he's found one or not. And Candy and I do the rah-rah for him every day or so.
I know.
I was really excited, and I do hope that he can find a counselor that he can work with.
I do too.
That would be
Anyway.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So Orion, you look a lot better than you've looked in a while.
Oh, thank you.
Are you feeling better?
I am in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
except for the physical pain part. That one I'm not. But because I'm on the move towards to services that I'll get to help with that. I think the internal relief there. But it's just, I'm trying to take care of myself.
I think the stress, some of the stressors, and getting.
Oh, you got ice cream too, eh?
Oh yeah, I love ice cream. That's like my comfort food. I mean, I'll use any excuse. I'll create an excuse to eat ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've come, this concept of an operation like this, it's not one of those things that I'm like going, woo, I'm really going to enjoy this.
Have you started listening to your CDs?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. The
Mhm.
ones I sent you?
Yep.
Okay.
Prayers to Ganesh to help with the obstacles, and saying, get them moving, the physical things, or administrative things. But also I've been praying and gently remove the obstacles within me, because this is an elephant. We don't want to be our obstacle and be moved. But I think some of it too is I'm coming to a resolve inside, more and more of a resolve. And I've also, recently got the lawyer who's going to help with this case. And so there's, like you said, there's some places of pressure and conflict they're starting to let go.
Yeah.
And I'm also getting to a place where I'm so ready. I'm like, I'm so sick of pain. I'm so ready to go shopping. I'm so ready to go, well, when we're able to go out, right? To just move around, like to really move,
Yeah.
Plus I want my really good legs back. What ice cream? I'll share my ice cream with you, Marla.
What kind do you have?
It's caramel chocolate.
Fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, is it keto friendly? It has to say keto.
No, that's not keto friendly at all, Mark.
I know. That's.
Nor is Otter Paws.
Mm-hmm.
What's
Good.
what is that? What is that?
It's
Otter.
yeah. Otter Paws is a flavor that Publix makes. Yeah.
I stay with the keto. The keto works for me, guys.
You're looking super skinny.
I'm a convert.
Looking good. As long as your cholesterol is good.
Well, we're not real sure how that is.
It's good if you don't check it.
Yeah, I know. It's like taking a COVID test. If you don't take it, how do you know?
You know that your chart, right? Your medical chart.
Oh yeah.
That happens with illness of any type.
Mm-hmm.
It's put in the chart has taken it from you. And now the chart has it.
Those hips.
Really?
How's that working for those hips?
Yeah.
I don't know. Somehow I keep writing it, unwriting
I'm
it.
writing it down right.
Right. There's something missing in how they're writing it yet. You know.
They're
No.
still writing it by script. They're not actually typing it. That's why they can't read it. Is that what it is? It's illegible. Yeah.
I need to call them up and tell them how to do it.
Okay.
Not
Now
that.
back to our regular scheduled program.
Yep. Yep. Oh, more.
We have about an hour left.
Oh, okay. Let me look at the other stuff. Oh shit! Where did I put my damn phone? Oh, here it is. Because I'm looking at my phone. That's where I got the list at. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, ice cream makes me happy. Oh, ice cream makes me smile. Oh. I sing stupid songs about ice cream and my cats.
Well, cats always deserve songs.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
All right. So as a piece of closure on the fairy chamber, the way I described sort of the content of this is the fairy chamber, the uses of it for healing the body or healing the soul. You're healing the body when you go in. You're healing the soul when you bring it out. You know, because when you're not trying to save their physical life at that point. It's not savable. And
Could
to
you
prolong
not still be working on this healing the soul while leaving it down there?
No, will we leave it there? I like that question. As long as you're alive and you're not like sort of disintegrating, something's working, something's solid in your soul. It's not the soul that's broken anyway, it's the linkage. Something gets broken in the linkage area. So when we take someone down there, we're aligning them to their soul's memory. We're aligning them back to the piece of the memory that their body has forgotten, likely because of something that I hate to say it, that the brain has introduced,
Right.
a confusion into the body. So, am I healing this? I'm thinking about that, and who am I to say no? Really?
I'm thinking because you still could be, because that could be part of the illness, like suicidal ideology.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wanting to so desperately wanting to have that separation from physical form.
I could even imagine taking someone there to heal them and us not knowing certain things, right? Let's say we take someone down there to heal them, but they haven't told us that they've already been diagnosed fatal. And we
Right. And the thing is, as they still could, their link to their soul could be altered.
Oh yeah,
and it could be reestablished.
I'm gonna say yes.
You know what I mean?
First
But then when you bring them up, when you bring it up, it's actually you're releasing it from those binds and tethers. So why shouldn't you be able to sort of reestablish that connection while submerged?
I'm thinking, I answered too quickly. When I said no, that's why I said, who am I to say no? First of all, there's mysteries in there that we don't know. I think taking them down and restoring a relationship between that original vision of them and what's becoming in the body, I can't imagine that it wouldn't be healing to the soul, because it takes the resistance away that was resisting the soul's communication.
That was pulling and creating that disconnect. Potential beginning of a disconnect.
Because the soul does, I've noticed, there are times when we're unwell, and we're unwell in a way related to something we're doing, right? That we can't get ourselves to stop doing, whether eating or or drugs, or I don't know, any number of things, right, that we do that's not good for us, or emotional reactions that we have that we hold on to ourselves inside ourselves that are destroying our endocrine system. You know, things, anything, right? I
Right.
I have personally felt the soul's sort of like grieving, the soul sort of longing to adjust the body, longing to
Get back on its right alignment.
uh now I've also experienced when the soul has been trying and trying, and then whatever the person's doing, wherever they're trapped in their soul cage, is now starting to damage the soul in a way that the soul will sometimes say, okay, I've got to dissolve this form, and it will pull away.
Hmm. I mean, at that point, you may not be able to reconnect and reestablish.
I think it's, I think, you know, Pantera, I think that there's the technique, and then there's all kinds of subtle things about that person, about that mystery that's going on, about maybe how the disease
I mean,
came.
intentionally, we may not be able to intentionally put do that, but what's I can still see it happening if we are, as we were just saying, allowing, getting to the body to that state of allowance
Hmm.
to remember what has been forgotten of that complete, whole, perfect being that they originally were meant to be.
Right, right. Well, and
If we do that our job well enough, theoretically that should be able to happen.
yeah, I could see that. Now, what we have to step back and be ready for too is if the person has said, "Please take me," you know, let's say, take me down to the fountain or uh, to the chamber, but yet they're in absolute resistance intellectually. A couple of things could be happening: self-sabotage, and they're just trying to show everyone that they're doing everything they can do, although internally they may be willing themselves to that. If we take them down and the soul starts, it makes that adjustment, right? It's making the adjustment, and it runs into this sort of a blocking, right, that stops it. Then the soul is the one that will make that decision about whether it will just allow the person go ahead and do what they're doing for a while, or whether it will literally shatter and cause a tower experience to happen so that they can heal. So I tell people that's the other thing about the before I say yes to taking people down. A lot of times I'll spend at least a minute or two talking to them, feeling out, because you can feel when their mouth is saying I want healing, but you
Mm-hmm.
can feel internally that
Yeah.
there's something. Yeah,
No, that they've come to the end of their contract, and
yeah. Or even worse, there can be subcontracts in there like I want to be healed. I want to feel better internally. God, when I give up this illness, if I get healed by this illness, well, then what will people give me any attention for? Or, what I won't get that kind of attention that I get from people, that I didn't used to get. Or, because that's a real pitfall that can happen. Or I want to heal, but I got disability income coming in. I don't want to go back to work. I mean, there could be a number of pitfalls.
right there is, you have to be in that right space of being willing and ready to heal.
Yep.
And to allow, because we've had that experience when I do my work,
Uh-huh.
that they didn't want healing touch, or they didn't want to be treated, because in reality their backstory and behind it was,
Yes, that they didn't feel.
this pain is a part of me, and it's part of my identity.
Yep, yep. Now there's yet other exceptions where that can be, and there are times. So warning, just a caveat. You go down. When they say, yeah, take me down, please, it is important for them to know also, you need to know that this is also bringing to your soul's attention a stated desire to heal. The soul can also decide the decision of the external is null and void, and it can force the healing on. I do tell people that you must understand that we don't have the control over certain mysteries. You know, the soul can take us out, the soul can heal us, bring us in, you know. Uh, but because I've seen that happen, where the person has come and said, yeah, I really want to heal, you know, I've been struggling with this. Yeah, do that witchy thing you do. And I'm like, okay. Right.
Yeah, that witchy thing. Yeah.
Right. And I'm okay. And I've even talked earnestly with them about my things. They said, well, why aren't you fully well? I said, I'm welling. I said, meaning I am getting well. I'm not well. And I said, clearly there's resistances inside myself that I'm still exploring. And they'll say, but this and this and this happened. That's out of your control. I said, I'm a witch. There's very little that's out of my control. I said, one thing when you become a witch that's different from other people, you know, how they walk the world, is we don't go, how did I do this? So we can condemn ourselves and get mad at ourselves. We go, how did I do this? Because I want to know a little bit more about you know, how I involve myself in the epic of creation. So, I mean, the things, even though the thing that happened to me happened via a medical liability, a pharmaceutical liability, you know what I mean? So on a deeper, more profound level, how did I say yes to that? How did I make room in a deeper level for that? And so I've been hunting for it, and I've found some of it. And see, as I find that, that's what causes that operation to be a major success. The more I don't find that, the more it may be a success, but then it may break open a whole nother thing of you know, a need to learn, a fog that's a fucking opportunity to grow. So just because external things cause something in a person, external things that seemingly are not within their control, there is nothing that is not within the Star Walker's control. And there is nothing within the Dreamwalkers outside the Dreamwalker's control. So then you have to go, what was it in the yes to this that was necessary? That's number one. And this is probably one of the hardest things for people to do when something's awful, is to say, okay, what is the perfection in this? Not is there. That is a really big leap. It's not a leap of faith, it's a leap of grace. When you go, okay, this happened, but I was a point of attraction for it too. How did I set myself in that place of point of attraction for it? And how do I either get out of it or get what it was that I came for, you know, and figure that kind of stuff out. So I found stuff inside my shadowy places that had to do with my family, mythology in the family, about how long you'll live and this and that, and how they treat illness as they grow older. Just a whole ton of things. Then sorrow over loss of, you know, deaths and stuff, like how that took root. Your everything that ever happens in your life, every illness, every health condition, it's important that full healing can't happen unless you allow the perfection to speak. You allow yourself not to just go, this pain drove it, because it's not your seeking of pain that creates it. It's your desire not to have that pain, but the pain of some other realization or some other thing, or just the trauma of something that happened causes you to step out of a comfort, a state of well-being, a state of comfort, right? And then that little state stays there eroding and opens a doorway for something that matches it. I hope this makes sense. But it takes bravery to say that to people, because I said that to someone just recently. They said, "No, Ryan, you didn't cause none of it." I said, "No, I didn't stand here and invoke it and seek it out. No." I said, "But I put myself somehow in the right relationship for it to find me." I said, "And I want to know why. And I want to know why a Star Walker said yes too. It must have said yes because there's something here that is also of value."
Well, there was part of your soul contract
Right.
of this embodiment.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, so that was done prior to this diverted flow
Yes. Yeah.
that you did.
And in the old folk tradition of fairy the healing, the way they saw everything, see, they didn't have a sense of our minds create things, or nothing was quite as sophisticated languaging as we're using now. Sometimes I think they were better off. We were better off with this other type of way of talking about it. They saw everything as spirits. So they would have said, "Oh, either uh, maybe you angered an elf or something, and they elf dart you, or they blighted you." Now remember, an elf didn't mean just a woodland creature. If in an Alfar tradition, they mean a spirit of everything. Different things. There's an elf for everything, or a troll for everything. So what they're basically saying is, you got something's attention that does this, and now we got to get that something's attention that does this off, and then heal the thing inside you that caused you to get its attention, right? But the way they would put it is, you broke a law, which is unnatural law, or you went somewhere and did something you shouldn't have done, but you didn't know you weren't supposed to do it there, or you stepped into someone else's elf blight in their life, which is like stepping into someone else's trauma, someone else's thing, and it migrated over onto you. But they saw the whole thing as spirit caused. But they also recognized we were spirits. So, they might even say, "Well, Marla, we got to sit down and find out what," the kitty, "we have to sit down and find out what your Seath, what your walker is doing at night when you're asleep. We need to find out what's been going out there doing, because I think it might have picked up something, right?" Now, that would be maybe from a reading or a dream that they had after you asked them to do healing. So they're figuring out if your spirit wonders, right? And then what's the wonder too? Well, it made wonders to the river. Oh, it's an ancestor thing they're picking up. What I mean? I'm going to how they follow the crumbs, but everything for them was animistic. Everything was caused by a spirit. And then later, a demon, they just went overboard with that. But they're not that far off, because everything is caused by a spirit. All a spirit is the essence of something. An essence of something brings about every change. I sometimes find figuring out my thoughts and are not always the best way to figure out what's going on. Right? I'll go to my second well, and in my second well, from myself or others, I might see a spirit, what looks like a spirit in there. I don't interpret it. That's how it's embodied itself. I act upon whatever has to happen with that spirit. Whether it's vexing them, it's on them that needs an offering. And it can be weird connections between, like invisible connections between visible things. I look into that well, or I have a vision of one of you, and you got this thing going on, and in the vision I see this spirit, and it's done this thing to you, and you somehow stepped into it, or maybe you got someone else's spirit on you, and in the vision it says, "Take honey to this place at this time and leave it." You'd be like, "What's that got to do with the tea in China?" Right? But what the vision has said is, there's an invisible connection between that place, this thing, this illness. But how it would have been described in the old days is, this is where the spirit lives. It lives over here, and you got to give it this, and then it'll take it off of you. Really what it's doing is it's using the power of the honey's vibration to restore a sweetness to some malady in your energy field and the place that you're going and leaving it is a leveraging point, there's a state of reality that emerges from there that matches yours. You know what I mean? It's a lot more. What they did was a lot more complex than it looked because they kept the outer forms of it simple, really simple. A lot of what they did was stones and stuff, stones and herbs and things. When they would lay these things on people, is the living memory of the stone or the living memory of the plant is touching you, right? And it's moving its undaunted, undivided core into your core and undividing it. It's sort of like getting a vaccine, right? You ever notice you can be going through something and just a mess, right? But you go to somewhere like, I don't know, down on the ocean, at the beach, or somewhere, there's these places, and we all have them, right? Certain types of place on the landscape that we go to, and we sit there, and it does something to us. All it's really doing is it's renaturing. It's renaturing. It's causing interior state of non-conflictedness to rise out of dormant memory back into expressed memory. And you go, what is that peace? Where did that come from? Well, you stepped away from all the entanglements and entrenchments, of humanity, went back to your natural state, to the source of you, and just stepped into that holism and let go. Boom. Then the body did the rest. The body did the rest. So there's an elegance in so many of these styles. So I don't want to confuse you. I hope I'm not confusing y'all trying to give the mechanics behind some of it and why they work. And there are some of the most simple workings. I've got a few. I'm going to be giving you two tonight before we end a little bit later. I also have some things I need to read to you and give you some fun stuff. This was something that I just recently got my hands on, and I shared it with Pantera the other day. I want to share it with you. Pantera, I promised to take a picture of this. You asked me to take a picture of it,
I did.
and I am. But I'm doing pic art to it before I send it to you because I want to give you something really cool. I'm a dork. So that's
Is pick art what you've been doing lately?
yes.
It's very nice.
You
Very
like it?
nice.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'm having more fun than it should be legal with this stuff. But if I start on something, it's like I can't stop. It's totally addictive. And it's so much fun. Yeah, Aubrey's really happy I'm doing it. Because I finally found like a toy, a thing that I like doing artistic things, but I hadn't found my way back in other than poetry. So thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. Who knows? Y'all might be getting a piece because I'll use all my good friends as a reason to fulfill my addiction, giving you pretty things. So here's this wonderful invocation I found. Well, not invocation. It's sort of I don't know how you describe it. It's a description. It's a statement. And it's about what the fairy are. And it goes, and we can get this whole thing to you later unless you want me to say it slower, but we'll see. We'll see. It's long. It's relatively long. That which is neither ill nor well, that which belongs not to heaven or hell, a wreath of the mist, a bubble of the stream, twixt a waking thought and a sleeping dream, a form that men spy with the half-shut eye, in the beams of the setting sun am I. Isn't that something? Yeah, I just came across that, and I want to share it with you. That along with going to be lots of other goodies. So, do you want me to say it slow, or would you rather get it to you a different way?
Well, if you're we have it on the recording too, so we can always go back and listen to it.
Durr. Okay, that works. So, what do I have on my list next? What do I have on my list next? And Terry, let's see. Here we go. Okay. some of these we can actually move through relatively quickly because there were things to mention. And then there's some charms and things I want to give you. The threefold well technique for healing maladies. Okay. There are techniques connected to each well, and then there's a techniques using the well itself as a perceptual instrument, right? Like healing the well, using the well of knowing, going into the fairy healing chamber. That's a major one. Let's see. Going into the second well, that's another one. Second well is a really important technique, y'all. It's more important than it may kind of show itself. Second well lets you go into your subconscious. It lets you go in and find those things without too much brain involvement. Like, it has to stay simple. You have to let whatever bubbles up, whatever it shows up. Don't interpret it. It's okay to write it down and do all that when you come out, but don't think about it while you're in there, right? You simply, you've extended your soul reach to the holism, to that place in the holism of you, which is that strata between the underworld rhythmic tides and the dream walker, and then this place that your mind has, that it can operate from without interference of the conscious self. That's the purgatorial quality or the borderlands quality in your brain. This lets you go into that. Because when a person comes for healing, and if it's a prolonged condition, again, I don't like to say this because, my own foot's in my mouth. The more it's a prolonged and chronic condition, the more it's inside the person and it's being held on by the person in different ways in different places, right? So the second well is about going in there, you're reaching to, and we can do it for ourselves, for another, reaching to this holism, this part of the holism where we store those things that erode at our basis, right? Erode us. Like, why am I not getting better? And I'm doing all the things the doctor says. And I may also go, why am I doing, I've changed my attitude. I've got these mantras, I've got more crystals in God, you know what I mean? And it just, kind of putting some laugh to it. But if you start going, that healing's not happening the way I know it needs to be for yourself, or the other person says, listen, it feels like no matter what I do, go to the second well. Because it means their house is haunted, the interior house. And it's haunted by something they can't get their hands on. They can't, it's a pulse. It's not a full life thought or an image, but it's a pulse that's moving through them that they can't get unhooked from. And it's going to be either in there or it's going to be at the river of blood. River of blood is an ancestral pulse coming through, right? Because we can do everything in our power to let go of an illness and allow healing to happen and still have something going on in the river that pulses it right back to the shore. The shore being the physical body, right back over to the bank of sorrow and into our body. And it could be simply because all we got to do is go down and get the piece of us that is that ancestor out of its stuck point. It's in an entanglement and entrenchment, and that's like an eddy, and it's caught in it. It just keeps doing and doing, and the water, the movement of the ancestral tide keeps coming. So that means as long as they're there, it's just going to keep arriving. So the great saboteur, to like anything I find, is always going to be in one or both of those two places. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I had to unmute. So you had said in the past about river blood work that we don't go for ourselves, we go for someone else. So
how can you hear yourself by not going? Is that what you're going to ask?
I was going to say, so if you just said, that there's potentially a part of like this situation, if it ends up being something ancestral, if it's connected to the piece of us in that other ancestor, how do you take yourself out of the equation to resolve that stuff?
You either go to one of your fellow seers, which is a part of what we have. Each of us have healing in us for each other, right? So you either go to them if you go, I'm not sure how objective I can be. I need the objectivity of someone, to go who could non-attached to what they, pick up in the boat. That could be one thing that would cause you to do that. The other thing is you go, this thing that's vexing me has actually vexed others in my family. So I want to go out of love for my family. And then it will happen for you too. That's another way. Or you go, no, this is not going to be a pattern I'm going to pass forward, and you go for that. It's out of this, because you got, I'm saying, compassion, like a fear of being sick, is actually closed. Anxiety about being sick is closed. Compassion is open. Hope is open. It's harder to go. It's almost impossible at times to go for yourself and not be closed. Because all you need is, while you're there, one reminder in your body of the pain. And boom, there you are in its reality, right? So, yeah, it's sometimes we have to hold. I actually prefer other people do it. And I can often tell when other people are doing it. Because I'll feel it. Best way I can describe it is an ease that I'll suddenly feel inside me. And I'm going, oh, it's like an invisible massage and an invisible, hey, sweetheart. And I'll feel, I don't know how to describe it. I feel the presence of grace. I can feel when someone's doing something graceful, a lot of times, whether they're praying or they've gone down to do this, or I can feel it, and because that, there's a well-being, a state of well-being that arrives at us easier. This is what it means to hold someone in grace also, So that's what I would say. Now, to quote my daddy, it's hard to be it and see it at the same time. I think it's not impossible, but I think it can be really hard to go down for yourself and not even have a subconscious, I'm looking for this one. This person, I know it came from them, so I'm going to really watch them, or they might show up, and we keep saying that in our head. So we get down, oh, look, they showed up. That might not even be them. That may be an image that your mind created, You want to let whatever arrives, arrive. Because the underworld is an intelligence. Yeah, it doesn't need to be told what to do. It just needs to know what you're seeking. And as it knows what you're seeking, the way you work your free will is what will allow it to arrive for you. Free will is really cool, but free wills can't be just people think of it as determination, right? And choice and all these things. But free will can also be allowance. To ask, to allow, to receive, and to give. It's got different ways it operates. Yeah, this thing about grace, I would like us to, at some point, maybe as a group, to work together on really writing up something about what grace is and how it works, because I think more minds on it would be great. And women, men, and I'd love to see some trans folks, especially the ones who are moving all around on that wonderful continuum, because their perspectives on what grace feels like. They have an interesting state of grace that happens for them when they are aligned with who they are in the interior. A grace happens. A breathingness happens, an ease. It's an ease that happens. Yeah, I know you know what I'm talking about, Marla. Yeah. So, okay. My list. I read this. Hold on. I got something else I want to show you. Problem is I get so many things on my list or in my mind that I want to do with y'all because I miss you and I have to update you on everything. I want to show you one of the students out in LA did this. Y'all may have seen it. Some of you may have seen it online. Look at this piece of art. Isn't that incredible? You see in her hand the golden lock and the silver key. Look at that haunting face too.
That's what's her name's art, right?
Yes. As a foster name, this is terrible.
I just fucking lost it. Mary Ancilla Martinez, right?
Yes. Her art is incredible. She does things with textures, light, and you'll see there's the well that's opened. And she did a strange thing with the sea. You can see the guardian's feet coming out. And I'm not entirely clear if that's also her feet or if it's the well is open, the guardian is coming out, and she who is the vessel through which that the blood comes. The guardian is holding the key, the golden lock and the silver key, which I think is interesting. She's holding both, which makes me think that she is both the guardian and the ancestor. She's merged it within herself. Because look all around her, you'll see butterflies coming up all around her, and they're all exploding out of there. This beautiful, like cyclone of wind, and the look on her face is like, you see that? I'm trying to get this glare off. That's if I get it. Ah, that's worse. There we go. Look at that. The look on her face is very assured, very like, I have arrived. And these winds that are in my hair are because I want them to, and don't I look fine? Isn't that something? I just wanted to show you. She did a piece of art before I have ever shared this legend with her. You know, that the serpent is lightning, and lightning coming down the axis mundi in the Garden of Eden, giving us the great apple, the great apple being fire, you know. Well, she, long before she'd done work with me, she had already developed this image of Eve. And Eve's in the garden, and she's at the great, the tree. And there's the serpent made of fire, wrapped all around her, and she's just like, so she picked up on that vision. Yeah, she is going to do a portrait of Bree and I. Yep, she's going to do one, and then Martin's going to do one as well. Because I want to get some images in place, of stop. Sorry, Bree and I. Whenever I speak of it, would you believe there's an intense romance about it when we do it? Bree and I are in a very I don't know how to describe it. It's a bit frisky. We haven't been in this space in a while, so I sometimes blush when I talk about it. But we are definitely in the romance period again. We've been in learn, develop. Well, I'm still there, but she's so in love with the work that's going on that there's a different state of joy and contentment with her. So she loves what's up. All right, so I should do that. Okay, let's see. Ow. Now, back to the list. All right, to threefold well then, back to that. So, you've got the technique of the well, the second well, the river of blood now, and the healing chamber. All of those are underworld. In fact, the second well is right at that threshold. Right at the threshold of becoming. So it's not entirely in the underworld. It's right at that threshold. It's right at that in-between place. Now, here's how you doctor from the vantage point of the well of being, right, which is the upper world. Let's say, right, Pandy, do you mind if I use you? I think I've used maybe. So let's say Pandy has come. She said, Ryan, I'm trying to heal this thing. And I'm just running into some obstacles with it. I get this close, and I'm not quite sure what's up. And I'll say, okay, let me, maybe I'll do a reading. and I'll see, well, what well do we need to go to? Now it may tell me the underworld one, right? So the well of memory. If I do that, I'll use some of those techniques. That's the may almost all go right there in the middle, and tell me, oh, well, it's on the surface world, right? Which tells me it's a body ailment, something's going on in the body. And then there's ways that we can read that too, because we can open the well on the body, into the body, and look for things. So, but if it goes upper world, it tells me that I'm going to have to sit down with Pandy, and we're going to have to do our work at Starwalker levels, which means I would sit with her, and I'd probably I like to sit, like facing her, nervous, relax, just have her open herself, right? Now it'd be easy to work with her because we love each other, know each other, and we also have shared common language, like we all have doing this work together. That's the power of this stuff, by the way, to have common language and a tradition or practice, because we can do greater things without having to slow down and explain it all. So that's say, Andy and I are there. I've got to be able to move either the healing seer or the seer who's in the role of facilitating healing. I have to be able to move up to my Starwalker level. Now, remember, you've been given qualities of the walkers, right? Like the underworld walker, the dream walker, is rhythmic, liquid, cool, blue silver, so all we have to do, and it's actually slower in vibration, so it's more peaceful, magnetic, undivided. All of these things start. I just felt Pandy just got on the vibration of it. I think Anna just did too. It's bouncing around, so I can see with y'all. You're remembering how you feel it. See, once you have that feeling in your body, then you've got it. You can get there like boom. So we get there. We're getting ready to do this work. I will move up to my Starwalker. Starwalker, however, is hot. It's electric. It's gold and white. You can even imagine angelic if you want to. It's stellar. And so, like I'm feeling mine now, one of the ways to feel yourself into that presence is you've been doing it in nesting for years. Waterfall of light flows down, and behind you is this vast image of you. That's another way you can do it. I like to raise myself up to the vibration instead of bringing the vibration to where I am, or I'll do both sometimes, where I'll sense myself extending to the heavens and feel primal movement and primal light and how it comes together. For me, all I've got to do is think the river of stars. That's how I get into streaming. That boom, and I feel it. But you got to find which one of those textured ways of talking about it turns on a feeling in your body. You know what I mean? So, Marley, you didn't shake your head, so I want to make sure you know what I mean. Because there'll be things that, like, there's ways I could describe your dream walker, which I'm the best at, really, because I've done so much work there, that you would, in no time, you're going, I saw it. It's like, oh, yeah, there, okay. Yeah, oh, I feel it. My consciousness is extended over to that. I'm not localized in my physical, in the surface walker. I've extended my awareness now there, and I'm operating it through that mode now. But I'm not as, I'm getting better, but I'm not as good at the Starwalker one, right? So I had to find my way, my thing that turns it on. And what turns it on for me is a type of relaxing into my breath. Literally relaxing into the presence of my breath. Did you feel how quickly that shifted your room? Your breath did that. Your breath is literally communing with eternity. The utterance is right there in your breath, and she's the one who dissolves all the She dissolves form, but yet she gives life to form all at the same time. And she's undivided. Undivided. And once we feel that, like I'm feeling it strong right now, then we can feel that heat begin to arrive. So stepping into that, you can either bring, by soul reaching, the sense of that presence here, either here, like feel it viscerally, or feel it behind you, which just means enveloping. Or you can raise yourself up and feel your sense yourself extended or expanded, or both. And there's value to doing both too, because with both, it's like cleaning your pipes. It's like anchoring it, like really good and solid in your senses. So it depends on how much you've worked with it. Now, if I'm doing this work, I might even, like I just, Bree just pointed out, she said, when you do the prayer of the seer, the name of love, wisdom, silent power, and all of that, and you go, and you're up here, she said, stop. Feel what's there. Feel the expansiveness of it. Just like when you do the refined sevenfold alignment and you bring down the feeling into your center. She said, you're used to bringing down the feeling of eternal presence. Do that. If you do that now, like, let me see, I'll run around in my repertoire and hunt for something. Boom, there it is. There's been many a time I've stood on a hill at night, and I've been in like the woods, or I've been out Pacific Northwest, and I'm on a hill and it's dark out because there's no light invasion, and there's those stars. There's those stars with the Milky Way is like there. You could just yummy it. It's just right there. If I think about that, I feel the childlike wonder of it raising me up immediately, or drawing it. We're mingling. It's mingling. Find your way in through images that apply the descriptions in some way, like whether it's the gold light, whether it's the stars, whether it's the electric movement of energy, any combination of those, where there's going to be an image, an experience in your life where you have felt that, where you have felt it, where you felt your exaltation happen, where you felt something holy descend and holy arise out of you. It might be when a drawing down the moon has been done on you, because I know probably all of you ladies have worked with that. When the spirit of the goddess comes, don't you feel bigger? Like bigger and what's that look? What, Pandy? See, when the God comes, I feel absolutely present.
Mhm.
So present, I'm aware of every molecule, everything. And absolutely powerful, and absolutely in that place of all things can be done. And so in love with the goddess that I cannot hardly see straight. So I'm looking at the women, seeing the goddess in them, just enraptured with love, but not love that's gushy and overpowering. A love without any need to own, any, what is it, Fiona says, do not crave love, but do not crave love, a flame with desire, but love at peace. That's those moments with that love at peace, love at peace. So when you have drawing downs done on you, right? The drawing down is a soul reach. You've got the priest. He may be an old great mother of us all, bringer of all fruitfulness, blah, blah, blah. I won't say the rest. But I'm really good at drawing downs. I love them. I love them. I'm like volunteer for them, because I love adoring the goddess, and I love adoring her in every woman. I love it. And I think my adoration is a big part of the power, too, as what Lady Faery says, that a big part of the power is that I adore her so much that she can't not come. She said, how do you say no to this, you know? So you open yourself somehow, and she comes when she's called to you, because you somehow, in the course of your work, learned two things: how to let go to the inflow, and also what she feels like. Once you've gotten what she feels like in any guise, you can bring her. She'll come because she's inside you already. The truth is, a goddess doesn't descend into you, she rises up. She rises up. She's already in the spaces between your particles because you are her outsourced, outflowed, you know? So these states that we call these walkers, they're there already. They've always been there. The colors, all the characteristics are how we dial in. They're just how we get on the frequency, right? So let's see. All right. Wait a minute, I'm thinking of something here. This would be a great, instead of teasing Pandy out on us, we can, all of us, together, let's do something here. I want you to be aware of the sun and the moon and the stars, the vastness of life, and be aware of the depths of life below. A descending waterfall, a rising fountain, a fall and a resurrection, ever moving a stream through you, becoming eternal again. You were ever in a movement through the stars with the earth. And that forward movement that you are on is a shared movement, because we're all on the same planet, moving through the same stars. But each one of us take a stream, a thread of that light. That is our essence, that is our origins, and it's ever becoming us as we pass through these stars. We're little star converter machines. So really, our upper world is us moving through the stars and the stars moving through us. And the lower world rising is that resurrection of that light that falls into the land and becomes you and me and everything. And everything is moving forward together. Maybe not in tandem on every little thing, but on the same planet and the same destiny of the planet. So we've all got the momentum of a collective past. The past of humanity, like the waters, the torrent of that river of blood pulsing behind us, pulsing the velocity of all that we've ever been, of all that the planet's ever been. Because each one of us have been a component of what the planet's been. Before us is the future unclaimed by even the planet. The planet's grabbing pieces of stars as we fly through it. Stars are grabbing a place on the planet because this is the happening place. And all we're doing is consciously shaping the velocity that moves through us to the velocity where we want to be, which will move through us to the velocity we want to be, and this continues on a great stream. And what upholds us? The distilled wisdom of the past. We can choose to dip into haphazardness. We could choose to be moved around by the whim of humanity or the tide of the elements or anything, but we're smart. We choose to be guided by the distilled collective wisdom of all who have walked in this way, a magical, spiritual, and mystical way. And therefore, that's what rises from the memory of the world and flanks our left and our right. Each one of these areas, the before, the behind, the left, the right, the within, the above, the below. These are dynamics, but these are also sources of worlds. Each one of those directions filled with knowledge, filled with potentiality. All we have to do is reach to them, take from them, or we don't really take, move it into our experience. So at this moment, let's move our experience, our awareness into the upper world dynamic. And the upper world dynamic is about this eternal ever arriving as we are journeying through the stars. Just imagine the pace we're moving to this vast eternity. That's a lot of stellar pulse. That is unbound potentiality. That is infinite calibration that we can't even put our brains around. Isn't that great? So we can get spoiled rotten from it. Be aware of that infinite possibility that's out there in those stars that are sharing their light that passes through our world, passes through us. And the stream of it just keeps pouring towards you, a little crick of it, each one of us. Feel the vast possibilities. Ideas shared from a billion worlds, a billion stars. It's countless. There is no end to its calibration. Now, feeling your awareness moving into that lofty state, you can even feel it in your body. You can feel this sense of golden radiance and unbound potentiality. Now let's say we've decided to work with each other, help each other with a condition of some sort that we need to address. It doesn't have to be health, it could be any condition. Be aware that the people that are sitting across just the miles from each other on this call are actually have no distance whatsoever. Because we are placeless beings. We just anchor ourselves in an awareness of place for navigating around this landscape. Ultimately, we're placeless, timeless. I can sense the radiance of each one of you. Star Walkers are so present. So now, if we were doctoring each other, what we would do is this. Whatever has inspired our compassion to be a healing mediator, we would build that compassion up. Maybe mine's for Pandy or Pantera, Marla, any of you. So easy to build because I love you. Up I would go to that state of all potentiality. And then I would recognize the connection between my all state, the potentiality between my Star Walker and any one of yours, or all of yours. And I extend myself now to yours, that they may embrace. They know the camaraderie of each other. They're the reason that we're here. Now, if we were here to doctor something for each other, we would extend to that Star Walker the object of our compassion, that so-and-so has been experiencing this. And this is not their most radiant state, but they don't seem to be able to get access to this, to a download, to an opening of the road to wealth or to health or whatever is needed. The two Star Walkers join hands. The compassion flows from one to the other. and it's red. And now they step back from each other. They know what to do. The one who's receiving the healing now is to be open. Now their Star Walker releases into them the vital pulse of whatever it is they're seeking. Ask and allow attributes out of essence. Because my Star Walker, in the presence, in the living awareness of my Star Walker, now I speak this. Good health and prosperity. Happiness and love in whatever ways of life. And all good things. All good things that are allowable. All good things that are in harmony with you. Yours. May your Star Walkers release that onto any area that has blockage, any area that has forgotten and cannot remember. And may that light, that seed of light, fall down your axis all the way into the pool of creativity in your dream walker, so it whirls around like a vortex of creation and brings together the particles and energies and relationships that will make this happen. Now feel ourselves extending back into our own Star Walker alignment, completely in living memory of each other's, but back into a type of boundary. And we feel the light that has descended into our body rise back up. The body, visceral feeling that has risen up, descend back down. And just to ensure the alignment is nice and strong, as we pass out of this technique, with our hands in the air, we incant. I call down the cloak of the angels. Fall down as a waterfall of lights, guiding, guarding, and blessing us by day and by night. In full alignment of the Star Walker. Spirit into the book of the law, that none may run asunder as it is, as it was, as it ever shall be. You ready? Open your eyes. It's already open. And if they're open, bring your focus back to the outer form, to each other.
So that was nice, other than about 3/4 of the way through, Asa decided to bark and decided he really needed to go outside. So I don't know if y'all Star Walkers heard the dog barking or not, but such is life with a dog.
You've got animals and they have to be loved. How's your hand doing, by the way?
She is doing fabulous. She has actually sat on the roost by herself, and she is kind of walking right. Instead of like a penguin, she's more like a chicken now.
So that's from a penguin.
I know. She's doing much better. Thank you for asking.
She's a cutie, too. I saw the picture. She's cute. She's just a Banty, too, isn't she? She's a Banty. She's not...
She's a leghorn. She's a leghorn. So.
I meant not a Banty, a pullet. She's a...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's a pullet. Mm-hmm.
So that's a cutie pie.
Mm-hmm.
You can do this with her, too.
Yeah, she might peck me now.
She's
no longer the docile little chicken that she was when she was really sick.
Like she's gotten back to her Tyrannosaurus memories, right?
That's true. That is very true.
So, the truth is, that one is so simple that literally all you got to do is raise up, extend over, stimulate the Star Walker of the other persons to release certain things to your compassion. Boom. That's it.
Yeah, it got really bright.
Isn't that incredible?
It was like why am I having all these flashes? My lights definitely aren't flickering. This is, we're definitely tapping in and connecting.
Oh, yes. And that's because of all the years of work you've done. See, that people sometimes will, say, wow, that takes a long time to go through this stuff. I said, don't you understand? You got to get the language into your senses. And once you have that, that's it. You're off and running. But it takes a while
Hmm.
to get them into your senses, and it's because of what you've done. So was that easy for y'all to raise up? I know I took a long time talking about it. The reason I did that is to pack as many feeling words. That's how you tune people in. Now, if you were doing something with someone and you wanted them consciously engaged in it, you would have to use those kind of words. You'd have to figure a way for them to extend their primal sense, which simply means to kindle the memory of it that's already inside of them. So you find what memories they have of what things that they've experienced in life that match that vibration.
Sorry.
Like I, I
No,
could.
my phone was on. Sorry.
It was good music though. I could say, "Oh, you find wonderment and happiness as a child, and extend it to the heavens and let it whirl around." I mean, some cranial thing, or I could just say, do you remember times as a child you looked up at the heavens above and saw all the stars? Okay, am I from there? Look how big it is. It's just go deeper with what it felt like. Remember the tingle that you got? You ever think, I wonder if anything's looking at me from out there? All those little things that run through us. If you let your empathy feel people out when you're in a group, you'll find them. You'll find them. And your gut will tell you, oh, like when I'm plugging people into the uprising tide that comes from the underneath, I'll pick some things like in the garden, picking a raspberry or water straight from a stream, or wiggling your toes, in the mud. Anything that visceral is where you want to go always. You get a visceral sense of the place you're going, the state you're going. Boom, you got it. What was it? This is from Abraham. I think she said, oh, let me see. I hope I have it in this notebook because she really nailed it when she said this. Does anyone want to say anything while I'm looking for this?
Well, I was just going to say that we are at 10:22,
Oh, shit.
and I'm not sure how much longer Kanu has set this to record.
Uh-huh.
So we may have to start wrapping up.
Okay, well, let me ask you this then.
Well, his note on here says it'll just keep running. And since you're the host, you can turn it off.
Oh, I didn't know I was turned into host.
Yeah, he put a comment in the chat that said that he's got to step out, but he'll let the recording run. Turn over to Pantera as host. Love you all, and we'll review this one. It's recording to the cloud, so if he gets cut off, it'll still run.
Okay. Well, let's talk about this a minute. We can keep going, or we can do another session of a few hours or something. This is not costing in terms of money, right? You've already paid this.
We've paid for this, but in 2 weeks, we're starting the next session.
I know.
So that's where I'm kind of getting at. I'm just kind of like, where do you want to do it? What do you want to do with this?
And I'm glad y'all are allowing me to have the time to really get more detailing. Is this helpful to you? Do you find this you're getting some? Because I want you to get to
Well,
some.
it's helpful for me, and I'm going to do this no matter what. So it doesn't matter to me how many sessions we do because I'm going to do them. So it's up to I just feel it's more up to everybody else what they want to do.
What's your thoughts? Because I know you have time constraints and you have things other than me to do. A chicken, doggies.
Well, what I have been doing, and I haven't really started it yet, is with the links that Kano sent out, I'm going to start listening to them more on my lunch hour because I need some calming more on my lunch hour, and this helps. So it's up to you. We usually, at our house, we usually go to bed at 10 or 10:30, and now we're at 10:20.
I know, and that's me too. I have to work in the morning, so I need to be heading
Exactly.
off to bed. So,
And being a librarian is not near as involved as being a nurse, but
Yeah.
still.
yeah,
I have to tell you,
I just have to get up a hell of a lot earlier.
Mhm.
Marla, you're living a life that is similar to the life I grew up with in that you're in the country, right?
Mhm.
And so I talk because I can feel those rhythms, you know, those chickens and all that. But even behind you, I can feel the rhythms of the country. If I were in your place, I would be falling over, probably asleep at this point, because I get very photosensitive.
Mhm. So,
And I love it. I love it. So I'll be right over.
okay. We have a guest room that actually has Candy's name on it, but I'm sure she'll give it up for you. Or
They have to work for it.
I am not giving up any room, but I'll be happy to share.
I miss country living big time. Big time. So,
So, what do you want to do? Do we want to wrap up right? I think we probably should wrap up then.
I think so.
And
Let's see.
I mean, do you want to do it again next Monday?
I mean,
And then go again, and then start the next session the following week?
Were there other things that you wanted to? I know there was a list, so
There was a list. I mean,
we made two. No, sorry. We made two.
we checked only out. We've only touched, I think, 2 things.
Yeah. But I knew that first one was going to take a lot because I really wanted to get into some of the subtleties with it.
Yeah, because we haven't we basically haven't touched anything else on the list.
The others won't take it.
They're quick. They actually, when you look at them, they look quick.
Yeah, they are quick. They are quick. And
Do you want to do
I couldn't.
an hour or 2 on Monday then?
We could do that. Either, yeah.
We could do that.
Are we okay? Is anybody agreement in that?
Is that okay?
Okay.
Would you promise you would tell me if it wasn't?
yes.
I'm like,
Well, yeah.
Okay, so let's do Monday.
Have you met us? We're so
Monday,
and reserved.
yeah. So let's do Monday, 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock to 9,
okay,
next Monday.
that'll work.
Okay.
Be there, be square.
Okay.
Okay.
Who's bringing the Coca-Cola? No, just-
I'll Amazon Prime it to you.
okay. I love you.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good
And
to me.
then we'll go and start the next session for those who are planning to join.
Okay.
Now, the next session is a continuation of what we've been doing here.
Yes,
Okay.
it's more of the stuff that was on the original list.
That was a little ambitious.
That was a wee bit ambitious. I will send you more info.
Okay.
So I will talk to you then.
That worked. That worked.
Okay?
Thanks. Thanks for
All right.
watching
Thank
with
you.
you.
Good
All right,
night,
good night, everybody.
See you next Monday. Bye.
Sarah, you should have the ability to stop and
I'm trying to figure this out. I don't know how to do it.
at the bottom next to
That you're stuck. You'll never be released.
Well, I can't shrink it. I can't, for some reason, I can't get to that bar.
maybe if you change your view or something.
That's what I'm trying to do. Exit full screen. Maybe that'll do it. No.
Oh.
Son of a bitch. Oh, there we go. There we go.
You should see possibly see that it's recording and it should be red on your
No, it's not. It's the record button is red. It's not red. It's white.
All right, what happens when you click it?
Someone should say leave.
Please ask the host to give you permission.
Okay.
No, we're just gonna stop it. Everybody just sign off then.
All right, maybe one of us can text Kanu and say, hey, can you log on? Can you go to your computer and stop it?
Yeah, well, if everybody logs off, he knows when it ended.
Where's the log off though?
Leave at the bottom on the right. Leave.
Oh, there it is. I had
All right, I'm leaving.
Bring it.
Good night.
Good night.
Love y'all. Sleep well.
Love you.
At least I thought I was leaving.
Okay.